listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. So many universes, so little time.
Hello, dear listener. You are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Gerry.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Gerry, no Clem this month because he is in France, and I got back from France yesterday, and I'd like to mislead the listeners, Gerry, into thinking that me and Clem go on holiday together, because I think that would be very sweet if we had our summer holidays together.
I assumed it was just like some sort of restriction on the amount of members of MUP that could be in France at any one time. So you come out, who goes in?
It's very much the Conservative. Is it the Labour one in one out policy? That's what we've got going. One in one out.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I was in the west coast of France, and I think Clem is in the East France. So I think we were about as far away from each other as you could possibly get. But I had a lovely, lovely time in France. And apologies, dear listener. Gerry and I made an episode, when do you reckon that was, Gerry? About 6 weeks ago-ish. And it was day two of editor Fred's holiday. So I was unfortunately responsible for editing it. And it was a total disaster. And then, so it's roughly 50% my fault, roughly 50% Tool's fault. So then I went to use the original recording to basically start again because I completely messed it up. And the original recording was no longer there. So, and I was clever and deleted my downloads folder, just to keep space, So there was nothing I could do. I couldn't retrieve the file. And what I have edited is, I can tell you what, dear listener, you will thank me for not listening to it because I got everything horribly, horribly wrong. And that was day two of Fred's holiday. So apologies. And then I had a throat infection, unfortunately. And then holiday. So here we are, Gerry. So life, we didn't really intend to take a break, but life sort of gets in the way sometimes, and it's just one of those things. And the summer is a tricky time, to be fair. But very glad to be back, buddy.
Yeah, it's good. People get a chance to miss us. Then they go, oh, remember the good old days when MUP came out? And they think, oh, there's a new show. I mustn't listen to it immediately and listen to it over and over and over again.
Hooray! Perfect. Yes. Listen, dear listener, please listen to this as many times as possible. We need the listening numbers. Yeah, definitely. Perfect. And I have to say as well, a quick hello to Derek, I think in Minnesota, because about a month ago he popped into Quest Hub to say hello, and he missed me by a day. So I was there on the Tuesday night, and he popped in on the Wednesday night, but he had a little chat with JD. So, Derek in Minnesota, if you're listening, I'm really sorry I missed you. And if anyone else ever unexpectedly pops into Quest Hub, I don't live there. So if you fancy popping in to say hello, I'm more than happy for you to do it. Send an email to manticuniversepodcast@gmail.com ahead of time, and hopefully we can sort something else out, agree a time or whatever, and we can throw some dice and play some games together, or just say hello. And Derek, if you're still in Frankfurt or whatever, get in touch with the show and we can arrange a time next week if that works. I suspect it won't now, but it just seems like a shame, Gerry, that someone spontaneously popped in and it feels like, miss me by a day.
Like
so yes, hello to Derek.
In the night.
Ships in the night, yeah. Exactly. Ships in the night. There we go. Yes, I hope no one ever tries to kidnap me, Gerry, because I would be very easy to find.
Well, that's why I maintain a healthy ballast of weight. Makes me harder to kidnap.
It buys you. It's like having an expensive bike lock. They're still going to be able to steal it, but it's going to take them valuable time to get you in the van.
So much time. It's not worth it, really.
Exactly. Maybe they can just kidnap someone else from OTT. Who knows? Perfect. I think other members of the OTT team are easier to get into a van, I would suggest.
I'll give you a hand with a few of them.
Fantastic. So, dear listeners, so I got back from holiday yesterday at 5:00 in the morning, having driven through the night, and I'm off to work tomorrow. So it's a little bit, but we wanted to make sure we got a recording out there. So things are still a little bit hectic, but the show must go on and all that, Gerry. So, but very, very happy to be back to talk about Mantic. So, Gerry, we're going to sort of take some bits from last month's episode, the lost episode. And I'm really disappointed as well because it was going to be called A Galaxy Near, Near Away. That was going to be the title of it. And I was very, very happy with that. But it's not going to happen. So, who knows what this will be. Maybe I can just call it that. Later we can think of an excuse to talk. We can talk about Star Wars and then
shoehorn it in if we need to. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. So we've got our welcoming on the menu, dear listener, our introduction, our Warpath Firephoton Dead Zone, which spoiler alert, might be another short episode. Many apologies, dear listener. Then we'll talk about our Panathol Kings of War. Pan and Law this month is the same as last month. Gerry beautifully explaining Oscan getting killed by a big axe and the consequences of that. We've then got some listener questions, which is a really great month for it because it's Gerry very nicely asked, casually, Gerry, I'm meeting Ronnie professionally, Does anyone have any questions I can throw his way? So that's brilliant. So we can go through that. And topic of the month this month, we're going to split. So obviously, dear listener, go and watch the OTT on the Tabletop YouTube video to see Gerry interviewing Ronnie. You can see that in full. We can have a little chat about that, and maybe Gerry can give us some behind-the-scenes stuff. But obviously, I'd encourage everyone to go and check out the OTT original video. And we're then going to, I don't think that's really a full topic of the month, so we're also going to talk about, has 2025 been a disappointing year for Kings of War? Because it seems to me like actually a lot of people out there seem a little bit disappointed. So let's talk about it. It's good to be back, Gerry.
Oh God, 100%. Yeah, just getting through the show notes there already. Seems like we've done mighty work.
Absolutely. Can you believe we don't get paid to do this? Shocking, unbelievable stuff. And Gerry, you know how we often go on rambles and tangents and all the rest of it. Can I start off the episode with a tangent?
Always.
Perfect. So since the last recording, I've massively been getting into Laserdiscs, and I thought you might be a man who might enjoy that fact.
Oh, wow. I had a Laserdisc player back in the day.
No! Oh, my goodness. How did you afford that? They were the rich kid thing.
It was, what would have been, 99, 2000, thereabouts. So it wasn't right at the very start. It was when they were starting to go out of fashion. And
that was right at the end. Yes, right at the end.
And Forbidden Planet, as is in Belfast, back then it was just an independent comic store that had lots of weird stuff in it, including a massive Laserdisc collection. They just looked like 12-inch vinyls of records, and you go, what the hell are these? Went, oh, they're actually Laserdiscs. Wow. So I picked up a cheap Laserdisc player secondhand. They were not worth it.
Oh no! I tell you what, it's just the fun of doing it. I'll be honest, Gerry. Yeah, I was looking for a couple of vinyls in my local record store last month, and I was like, "What the hell is this? Is this a soundtrack section?" But no, it was Laserdiscs, and they had this beautiful Terminator. I have got the Terminator. They had this beautiful Total Recall box set, like special edition box set. It's like, oh, this is amazing. I might get this even though I have no way to watch it. And I went up to the counter and I was expecting the guy to say, oh, yeah, that'll be €200 or something. But I wanted it. And the guy had absolutely no idea. He's a super, super nice guy, Angel Records in Wiesbaden. Had no idea. He basically bought those years ago, hasn't sold any. So he really had no idea. So he said, look, come back and I'll do some research and I'll think of some reasonable prices for things. So I came back a week later and he said, okay, the fancy ones, €10, the normal films, €5. So I went in one day and got, basically cleaned him out. And then, and then I just started looking around on eBay for a cheapy player. So I bought a broken one from a local guy that also came with another 10 discs. And then Clem visited. So, of course, Clem would be on his weekend break. He'd be delighted to help me try and fix. And when I say help me, I mean he does it, and I stand there doing nothing. He mostly fixed it. So it's still got issues. I had to order a part from the USA. But so Laserdiscs has been a big thing. But what I do is I hook it up to my old school hi-fi for the sound, and then I link it to a projector, so it's projected onto the screen, and it's super cool. So last night I watched a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, which I think in English is called Lionheart, and it was amazing. It's so good. There's a certain kind of film, either a horror film or sort of a cheesy action film, and there's just something about it on Laserdisc which is just magic.
The only problem I had with them was whenever you hit long films. And it turns over. So, you're getting so far in the film and they never got a really nice pause point. They would just go, we're turning over now because we've reached the end. We haven't done it between scenes. We didn't stop early so that we're just stopping mid-sentence.
No, you're absolutely right. But that's one of the fancy ones, Gerry, where and this was the problem with my player, is that the problem is it tries to flip over to side B, so the laser has to go. But it's incredibly sketchy technology, and it's no wonder mine's got issues. So what I did actually, to be honest, was I'm waiting for Clem to help me fix that. So what I did is I found another player, relatively cheap. It wasn't really cheap, but relatively cheap on eBay. That isn't the fancy one. It's a manual turnover, but this one actually works, Gerry. So yes, I have to get up and flip the film, but it actually works. So I've been loving Laserdiscs. So that's a thing. But I don't know. There's someone was talking about. I think there's a guy called Bomber Guy who makes really good YouTube videos, and he was talking about VHS and how the quality of them was absolute garbage, and yet there was kind of a charm to them that it was even displayed in the wrong formats. They had kind of pan and scan, so you couldn't really see. Either you had a horrible window or you couldn't actually see the whole screen. It was just, the whole thing was so badly designed. But he made the example of watching Alien on a VHS, and he basically said that the terrible grainy quality of a VHS tape actually gave it kind of added to the film, because you couldn't see, if you watch it now in Blu-ray or in HD or whatever, you can see there's no alien in that room. But he made the point that it's actually a virtue of the low quality, because you really can't see. It's I thought that was very interesting. I thought, well, I don't really want VHSs, but Laserdiscs, sure, why not? It's nearly as good quality as a DVD, but not, and nowhere near as practical. Perfect.
And you can get to see the box art in beautiful 12-inch vinyl size.
Oh, I love it.
30 centimetres of cover.
Yes, exactly. So I've ordered, you might like this though, Gerry. I've ordered and it wasn't cheap, the Star Wars, the original trilogy on Laserdisc. So I'll watch it with the kids.
Ooh, no, that could be good.
Hey, on the projector, hey?
Not just that, because I think the Laserdisc was one of the last ones where they hadn't messed around with it. I think it may predate George Lucas going back and going, I'm going to start adding weird stuff.
That's exactly right. So it's kind of the best quality before he rewrote history. Yes.
It's why I still own my original VHS copies of the Star Wars trilogy, because they all predate him messing it around.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because once you put some art out there, yes, obviously Lucas is the creator, yet it feels like this is an important piece of culture that sort of, in a way, belongs to all of us, So it's and I think actually I'm fine with Lucas going back and changing things, but the kind of the Stalinist way he did it and just said, no, this version is the better version, I'm deleting all the previous ones, and we're going to pretend this was the original the whole time. I got a problem with that, actually, Gerry. I think that's the wrong approach.
It's funny. The Library of Congress asked for a copy of it because it is so quintessential cinema. It changed a
Culturally
genre,
important.
culturally important film, and they asked for the original trilogy to put into the Library of Congress. And Lucas went, "I'll give you the updated one." And they went, "Well, no, the one that was released in '77, that's the important one." And he went,
That's
"No,
the important one.
yeah, you have my current
on.
version, or you have no version." So it's not. It should be in the Library of Congress, but it's not there. Its significance will be lost to time when in the Planet of the Apes in the future, or in Logan's Run when they come across the Library of Congress, or in Battlefield Earth, and whatever one of the futures that those sci-fi films have in store for us. When people stumble across it, they won't be able to watch Star Wars. It's not there. They'll never know.
Yeah, I'm doing this with video games as well. Actually, it's the last sort of 10 years, I've become a bit more of a retro video gamer, and I'll buy weird consoles and really like them, like the 3DO. I find it fascinating to buy unsuccessful consoles and try them, or the Atari Jaguar or something. But there's a part of that actually is just sort of video game preservation. I don't like modern video games, to be honest, as a general statement. I don't enjoy the gameplay. I don't like how they're just digital. I just don't like how it's gone. So, being able to buy a good old cartridge or a game for the Dreamcast or something, it just feels, I don't know, we actually own that. It's not, some weird nonsense to try and get some more money out of us, or, digital only, and once they turn the servers off, it's gone forever, But anyway, I'm getting, I don't know if it's an old man thing, but I'm getting, this is very moany for the beginning of the episode. Apologies, Gerry.
That's why Tiny Fighting Men are great, because when you buy them,
yeah, exactly.
When you buy them, you own them. They're in your house. Nobody can come along and switch it off.
Well, I think GW are actually trying their best to unpick that, though. To be honest, buddy, I think they're trying to sell you the experience they want you to have. They want you to be a consumer. They don't want you to be a hobbyist. I think they want to sell you their characters and their universe, their IP, and you'll play that character for a year, and then next year you'll buy a whole new army, and you forget about the last year's. I think that's the way they're going. Bless them. But yes, luckily we don't have that with Mantic.
Very true. Could be worse. It could be Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast, who are attempting to turn Dungeons and Dragons into an online video game, at which point you will just be renting your characters and the like from them. You won't actually own it.
Oh, it's going to be more like World of Warcraft or something like that, is it?
Yep.
Yikes. Hooray! Hooray for fun. I'm monetizing it. Making money off of imagination. Good stuff. Brilliant. Well, on that cheerful note, dear listener, Gerry, should we go on to Mantic News? Mantic News.
Yes, let's. Because there's been quite a bit.
I've been on holiday / had a throat infection, so I must confess. Mark sent me a video at some point and said, "Oh, Chris, have you watched this?" And I have not. Gerry, please do the heavy lifting for this section.
Right, I will indeed. Very briefly touch on what came out last month, because we mentioned it and then the recording vanished, but it does kind of link in to a couple of other things. Taran Bly and Arok Amora company boxes came out for Champions. So that adds the halflings and the ogres, and more importantly, shiny new this month, Axel Tricklebrook, the happiest axolotl in the world of Panathor, and their company is up for pre-order for Champions. So that's 3 chunky boxes, getting very close to the end of the Champions from the book. Although Ronnie has said, I think there's going to be one more company this year that is not from inside the book, so the first of the new companies. And it seems to be going great guns so far. I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, the Axel Tricklebrook one, I think, is the Trident Realm one, right? And that is that's my favourite model in ages. I can't remember seeing a model and just enjoying it as much as I do. I love the style of it. She's having a fabulous time. I love everything about that. I really do.
And it has this delightfully cute thing on its shoulder, like a water elemental pop or droplet of water, or I don't know what it is, but it's just loving life.
So, dear listener, if somebody moans and says, "Oh, Mantic don't make nice models," I think it's a very good example to show them. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. I think all of the champions have been absolutely outstanding, and then they've all been cast in Unicool, and it is a superb material, well worth the money by all accounts. Certainly for me, it is anyway.
Brilliant. I've done my Basilians. I still need to do. I think I've just done the Bloody Cardinal. I need to do my Abyssals to actually get a game of champions in.
Yeah, I'm setting something similar, assembled, ready to rock and roll, but I need to get them going. And then I just need to double down on that and force somebody into playing with me, which will probably be Paul, because he's generally up for any game at all times. So
nice, good guy to have around.
I think so. Yeah. Away from Panathor, though, there have been a couple of big bits coming for their IPs. So launching on the 19th of August is going to be Assassin's Creed Animus, the board game. It's going to Kickstarter, so potentially it'll already be up and live when people hear this. It's an interesting little game. I'm not a huge board game fan, but I really enjoyed this because the setup was minimal, and the play is incredibly fast, and you get to mess with your opponents as much as carry out your own little coup de grace on people. So if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed, it's worth having a look at it. It will not be to everybody's taste because it is essentially a board/card game, and it's a very, what's the best way to put that? Streamlined. There's not a lot of messing around. You're not going to have miniatures. They've got busts to represent the various assassins, but it does include all of the assassins from all of the games, and you can pick whoever you want. So you get this weird asymmetric assassin nonsense going on.
Does it all seem to fit aesthetically, Gerry?
Yes, it's difficult to explain. When you play an assassin, you get a dashboard that sits in front of you, which is themed to that assassin, so it's asymmetric. And the idea is you're all inside the Animus which is the Wayback Machine that they use to travel through genetic memory into time or something. It all gets a bit timey-wimey. Anyway, you can ignore all of that. The Animus is the MacGuffin that lets them play in different eras. And so when you look down at your board, if you're playing Enzio, then your board is set up for Italy, Renaissance Italy. If you're playing, there's a Native American one whose name I cannot remember. His background is set up to be North America. So aesthetically, each of the dashboards, which is all you're going to be looking at when you're playing, is themed. And then you've got a score counter in the center, which is the Animus, if you want, where tokens get sort of moved around. So you're not looking at it's not like a Dungeon Saga or a Dungeon Crawler style game. It is a board which has a flowchart path that you can go down and choose different options, and then cards. So whenever you bring an assassin, the assassin has a set of cards that comes with, and you shuffle all of these cards together from all of the players, and in it will be weapons you can use, targets that you can kill, and other sort of frippery like that. Because when you draw cards, you only get to sort of keep one, and you have to discard a couple. What you want to do is hopefully pull your cards out that lets you put down your targets or things to help you reach your targets. However, you might draw 3 cards and none of them are yours, but what you might have in your hand is a target for one of your opponents, so you don't want to put that down. but there's also things like false memories and other things that are stumbling blocks that push the target further away, essentially. So if you don't get a card that you can play for yourself to help you, you want to be playing cards that impact your opponents and inhibit their ability to complete missions. So you've always, even when it looks like you're not getting cards that are helping you, the key is how do you play those other cards against your opponent or for your opponent. If you put a target down that's easy for them to reach, then they're going to score quickly, and it's the first to 4 kills wins. But if you put that target down behind another target, then they have to go all the way through, kill the first target, and then do the other one subsequent to that. So they might get killed on the way, and you're never really killed. You just sort of recycle back through the animus, because if you've ever played the game, the whole idea is when your assassin gets killed because you're essentially an ancestor, recalling what they did via their genetic memory, that death, which isn't a death, pulls you back into the real world and into the big matrix-like computer that is the animus, and you just go, oh, well, that didn't work, reset and start again. So that's the sort of the track behind it. But yeah, it's an awful lot of fun. The game mechanics are really, really crisp. Jack Caesar has done a lot of work on it. I don't know if he was solely responsible, but he's certainly done a ton, and he did things like Worms and a whole host of games for River Horse. So he came over to Mantic with Alessia.
That's really cool. That's really exciting. Great. Yeah, I did have a demo game of Worms. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. Fantastic. So, dear listener, get over to Kickstarter, and if you like the sound of that, sounds good.
There is a Let's Play I did with Ronnie and Jack kicking around. So if you want to actually see what madness I'm talking about, you can go there and have a nosy. But it is very much board gamey central.
Very nice.
The other big bit of IP news coming hot on the heels of the Banished for Halo is the pre-order has come up for the ODST, which are
the sort of drop troopers. They're not super soldiers. I remember the game on the Xbox 360. I think it was really cool.
The orbital drop shock troopers. So actually human-sized compared to the Spartans and compared to the Banished. I think this is going to be interesting because obviously Halo uses Dead Zone's rules modified. In Dead Zone, you can normally have 4 regular troops in a cube. With Spartans and Banished, that drops to 2. But because you're dealing with essentially an 8 to 10 man unit of ODST, they're more like playing Enforcers or playing Rebs or GCPS or whoever. I assume they're going to be allowed to mob up, so possibly still have the 4 in a cube to allow them to counteract the fact that they're coming up against something massive, especially when it comes to the space apes.
Yeah, that makes sense, buddy. Yeah, that's really cool. Fantastic. But yeah, it seems Halo's still going great guns. Amazing. And Gerry, did you get a chance to... I have absolutely no idea what's been in the vault recently.
Yeah, the August release for the vault has been fascinating because they've obviously got some new ships in for Armada, which are undead ones. So some ramshackle, repaired Basilean, and then what looks like some sort of absolutely destroyed fleet that's sort of ghosting its way towards your opponents, which come on really nice crafted bases as well. Alongside those, there's been some terrain for Armada. So if you want a little sort of spooky Skull Island, or what potentially could be a volcano, it's got a cottage on it. But it's nice to have those little bits of additional terrain elements that you can drop on it. And then they've also dropped on the Plague Mule option. So they included the Mule last month, which threw me because I thought the intention was never to put a plastic kit into the vault.
I completely agree with you. I thought they do all the add-on bits to the mule in the vault. They had the resin extra bits, but they've thrown me for a loop, the fact they're doing the hard plastic kits in the vault.
Yeah. So that went in last month, and then in August they've added the upgrade kit for the plague. So if you want to turn it into a plague, or potentially, I suppose, a marauder, it's just an absolutely battered mule with bits stuck onto it. Then that's there, along with a poor GCPS trooper who's a casualty. And then the last bit in the vault are some Kings of War figures. So Jarvis has made an appearance. God bless his cotton socks. And along with Jarvis, there's also the 3 of the characters from, I was going to say League of Infamy. It is League of Infamy, yes. I'm right. The Infernal Sister, the Abyssal Huntress, and Dark Skull, the Wraith / White / some sort of undead. Definitely one of those. So yeah, an eclectic little mix. Bit of Firefight, bit of Kings of War. The individual figures are listed for Vanguard. And I suppose since they did Vanguard on My Mini Factory digitally recently, I suppose it's good that they're sort of keeping people's interest with that if they've managed to recruit them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Mantic will do a second version of that, second edition, and I think at that point they'll probably give it a big push. But I really hope they do a second edition. I still haven't tried it, but Clem always spoke very highly of the game, and it's a shame it's sort of vaguely in purgatory at the moment, isn't it? Really, at the moment I'm not sure I'd recommend anyone to get into it because we're sort of in limbo for the time being. But watch this space.
Definitely, I think if you're not picking it up digitally through the vault, I don't think it's actually possible to get it physically, or at least a lot of the bits and pieces are difficult to get physically.
They still in Quest Hub, they still have a 2-player starter, the starter box thing. Well, I don't know. One day I might ask JD if he can do me a deal on that, and if I can pick it up on the cheap, I might just out of interest. But I picked up the expanded rule book. I think they did an expansion at some point, and at some point they did kind of a sort of updated rule book that had a few changes in it, plus the Iron and Blood or something, Iron and Ice or something campaign stuff. Or I'm getting this wrong anyway, but
Ice and Iron.
But we are. It's just started. And I need to play my first game this weekend. There's actually at Quest Hub, we've started a Mordheim campaign. So I've painted up my warband of Druchii. I'd never played Mordheim, but we've played, I think, 3 test games. And it's clearly super janky, very exploitable. But we've had an awful lot of fun playing it so far, Gerry. I don't know what you think of Mordheim, but I can really see why people love it so much.
Yeah, it was a fascinating little game when it came out. Obviously, people wanted to play Necromunda in fantasy, and Mordheim was as close as you could get to that. But like you say, there were some serious exploits that could be done in list building and in composition, which kind of requires you to put a lot of thought into your streets that you're playing through, because archers are absolutely deadly. Anything with a ranged weapon in that game is incredibly deadly.
It's funny you mentioned that, Gerry. So on the WhatsApp group for our little campaign, I think we've got about 20 players now, this is by far the most successful little campaign they've ever tried. And there's a very definite split between the players. It's roughly half the players are like me that just want to tell funny stories, not interested in, it doesn't matter if we win the game or lose the game. I mean, life will go on. It's just funny. If my leader gets killed, it's kind of a funny thing that happened. It's just telling the story. But about half the people are clearly taking this quite seriously. And someone mentioned, I think it was something like halfling bowmen, and basically said, the points were all wrong for the halfling weapons. Either let me change them to what I think is fair, or I'm just going to spam the archers and win. And so the guy organising the event was sort of like, we're doing this for fun, and don't make ultimatums on the chat, please, that you want to change the points of things, or else. So I have a feeling maybe some of the people who are playing in this campaign will not necessarily be invited back to campaign number 2. But but I've played 3 games. In one of them, my leader got killed and rolled on the damage table. He's just dead. That's it. Got an injury. He's dead.
11 to 16.
Yeah,
one followed by 6. Everybody's dead.
I rolled. Yeah, exactly. I rolled exactly the wrong thing. Then I had I think they're called a priestling or something in the Drucci list. My number 2 stepped up to the leadership role. They were immediately killed by, again, taking an injury, and I rolled exactly the wrong thing. But it was absolutely hilarious. It just bonkers nonsense happening on the table, and it was really, really fun. It's the whole it's feeling its age in terms of the rule set and everything, but it is just, I think if you're playing with the right people, it's just a great time. So Clem came to visit a little while ago now, and we played, among other things, we had a little game of More Time. It was, to be honest, we had a big game, so I think there were 6 players, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that again. I think there was just too much going on, and it bogged the game down way too much. And also, you have kind of weird situations where someone will say to you, "Okay, if you don't attack me, I won't attack you," and then it creates sort of odd dynamics on the table. But we did have a brilliant time. It was absolutely hilarious. So yes, dear listener, wish me luck for Saturday, where I sort of know the rules. So let's see how I go. But I've had a look on eBay, and can I pick up a rule book? All the rules are available for free digitally, but I'm old, so I do like paper. But prices are absolutely crazy online, so I'll stick with the digital for now. But yeah, really, we've had some fun with that. Perfect. And I do actually have some Mantic news. I think I'm allowed to say this. I won't announce the date, perhaps. Dear listener, I think there will be an official announcement from Mantic, but I think I'm allowed to say there will be a Mantic open day in Germany, or a Mantic day, the very first one in the country. So watch this space, dear listener, but I can tell you it will be happening in Wiesbaden, which is about 25 minutes drive from me, and I'll be there hopefully doing some demos of Kings of War. So it's very exciting. Be really interested to see how many people turn up. It's actually and I haven't planned this, I've just volunteered to join. It's in the painting studio I used to go and play in, so it's all very interesting.
That's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah. So, dear listener, if you're in the area or you fancy travelling for it, it is a particularly dodgy area of Wiesbaden. So, Wiesbaden's a very nice little city. But this is, I think, if it's still there, there is a sort of a BDSM sex hotel basically right opposite. So, dear listener, whatever you fancy, it's, if you haven't got accommodation books, that's certainly one option if it's still there.
Why Ronnie?
So there we go.
He's a frequent flyer, knows the area.
I suspect people working for Mantic get enough pain already. That's perfect. Yeah, I wonder if they have like a loyalty card. If you get stamps. Anyway. So that's the thing, dear listener. This conversation will go south very quickly if I allow it to. But that's exciting. Great to have Mantic Day in Germany. I know Mantic were sort of planning on doing it, having a bit of push in Germany. For me, the big thing really is, can they get the app in, the foreign languages? Can you get it in German? That would make a huge difference to people. But who knows? I don't know the behind the scenes stuff, so I'm really interested to see what will happen. And if that wasn't exciting enough, and I'm going to double check the date, but I think it's on the 22nd of November. We're having our next ambush event at Quest Hub. So, dear listener, if you find yourself in Frankfurt on the 22nd, and Derek, if you're listening, you're more than welcome to come along, buddy. If you come, I will pay for your ticket. We're just going to have 3 fun games of ambush and have a lovely old time. And I think probably next year we'll look at... I do like the 750 points of ambush. I think it's a great way to get new players in. But maybe next year we'll look at possibly running some slightly bigger ones as well. I think maybe 3 ambush events a year plus 1 slightly bigger point. would be great. Would be great. Just keep everyone interested and keep the community ticking over. But there we go. So that's my exciting 2 bits of very exciting Mantic news from Germany.
It's international flavour. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, it is cool, isn't it? It really is. Super. I think, Gerry, any more Mantic news?
No, that's more or less blowing their load for Mantic news.
Dear listener, we will be back after these messages.
Hey there, I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Dead Zone, the podcast.
And you're listening to Mantic Universe Podcast.
For everything Mantic under the sun.
Hey, this is Ash Walker.
And Zakama13.
And you're listening to the Mantic Universe Podcast.
So much universe, so little time.
Gerry, I always feel so guilty about this. Do we have anything to say about Warpath, Firefight, Dead Zone? I know there was a rules update. I know listeners have asked, for us to talk about it. We have far more qualified people than me, so fingers crossed there's something coming in the pipeline. And I know we do have more content coming from people that reliably play these games, these wonderful games. But do we have anything to say, Gerry, or should we just embarrassingly sort of...
I mean, we'll probably saunter on very, very briefly. Dead Zone. I know people may even be in one of the listener questions for later. Let me just double check it's not. No, it's okay. It's not. I know people have been asking when the new Dead Zone edition is coming, assuming that there is going to be one. Not this year and probably not next year from the looks of things.
Does it need a new edition?
No.
I mean, I suppose it doesn't if I don't play the game, I suppose. Nothing needs a new edition.
Well, that's always the case. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on Halo at the moment, which is Dead Zone adjacent. So Dead Zone's taking a little bit of a backseat to that. For all the Rebs fans out there, they didn't do enough of a push on social media to get the Rebs moved up on the production scale for Mantic, because they had
a call out,
isn't it?
It's
months ago. Yeah. So, if people are complaining that there's not enough stuff coming for Dead Zone, and then Mantic go, well, if you can post this around and share it and get likes and all the rest, then we'll do some Dead Zone stuff, and then nobody does anything. For me, if I was running that company, I'd go, well, clearly they don't actually want it then. But I know Ronnie has said that they're looking at getting it onto the schedule anyway. So there will be plastic Rebs sooner rather than later, but not as soon as they could have been.
Yeah, for example, when I was a kid, my friend had a hamster. So I asked my parents regularly, can we have a hamster? And eventually they actually said yes. But that was like years after. And I sort of just kept asking, probably just to be irritating. And by the time they said yes, I didn't really want a hamster anymore. But at that point, what was I going to do? Admit I didn't really want a hamster and show weakness? No. Of course I was going to have an unwanted pet. So, dear listener, maybe this is the new Reb stuff. This is your hamster. Who knows? Yes. Oh, Gerry, what I can do, though, is talk about... so Clem came... I mentioned already Clem came to visit a little while ago now. And we played a brilliant game of Antares with my friend Caleb. And it was great. And... yes, we had a lovely old time using my Dark Fantastic Mills sci-fi trench set, and we had a terrific 2 versus 1 game. It was 50 points against 100 points of the other side, and the heroic Algorin had to escape to their escape ship, and me as the dastardly Concorde, I had to try and stop them. And it was a brilliant game. There were loads of fantastic moments. So they had one sort of anti-tank cannon thingy, and it just one-shotted my tank. So my tank had this bombard attack thing that was throwing pins out left, right, and centre. And they just, again, it was my leader in more time. It was roll on the damage table. Oh, it blew up. It was such a cool cinematic moment. It was really, really cool. We had a lovely old time. And since then, Clem's been asking about paint schemes for his Antares stuff. So that's clearly started a fire under him again. So that's really great. But yeah, a lot of fun there. And then Gerry, interestingly, and I think I can explain this as having something to do with Mantic. very likely to happen now in March of next year, so 2026. There's me and a few chaps are looking to put on a Antares Lives event. But it's actually, I was looking at some venues. So Warlord would do it, but they just sort of set some tables up in their small shop. And you can only get about 6 to 8 players maximum. I mean, it's very, very nice, and they're very nice people. But the Antares players do that, and they normally, once you've had a couple of dropouts, you normally end up with about 5 or 6 people playing in this small, Warlord shop. They've got lovely tables and everything, but it's just not quite what we want. It's sort of, there's no space there for new players to come, or people to come and give it a try, really. So Antares Lives is going to be at Mantic. So so I messaged Ronnie and negotiated a deal. So I think we've got space for about 24 players, which sounds absolutely spot on, considering Antares is very much a game in hibernation. So we may have 3 or even 4 of us coming from Germany. So Clem might actually come for this, and I'm thinking maybe we drive, so I can bring some terrain in the car, albeit that's quite a big commitment. But anyway, we can borrow terrain from Mantic anyway, but if we want a specific thing. But we're going to have one day where we play out my little campaign, which is the Algorin Civil War. So we'll start off with the rebels trying to assassinate an incompetent sort of dictator general. And then we'll see, does he get injured? Does he get killed? Does he get away scot-free? So he's going to be sort of at the parade ground, inspecting the troops, and the Rebs are going to try and kill him. And then the second scenario is basically going to be the Loyalists then attack the Rebs base in the Badlands, and we'll see how that goes. And then the third game is going to be the Rebels uprising in the capital city, and there's going to be the board is going to be split into 6 segments, and each whoever controls that segment, so there's going to be a place called the Hall of Heroes, and there's also going to be a couple of bridges along a river, and whoever controls these sort of important points, key locations around the city, whoever controls the most of those at the end is declared the winner, and either the Loyalists win and suppress the rebellion, or the rebels win, and obviously the city in our pretend canon is liberated. But who knows? I mean, there is a small chance we can get some sort of very famous people to come. And who knows, maybe we can get the events put in canon. I can't say that for sure, but it's a possibility. And obviously we want to have a think about, well, how does the Freeborn fit into this? Or, the other factions, if people want to bring their factions. So what we're saying to people is, if you're someone that still plays Antares, brilliant, come along. The second day will also be just an open play day, basically. So one day will be narrative day, one will be open play day. But also I want to say, dear listener, if this all sounds like fun, go to the Skytrex website or the Warlord Games website. But the Skytrex website has really nice new player bundles. So they've got, generally for most factions, 2 different bundles. So, for example, for the Boromites, they may have the work gang faction, who are kind of the working class, the workers, or they might have the kind of security faction. Buy yourself one of those faction bundles, and that's basically, we're not taking it super seriously. Buy one of those and you basically have all the stuff you need to play. So buy it, build it, paint it, and hopefully we will see you in March, dear listener. But I think if people listening to this, obviously it's not Mantic, but if you enjoy listening to this podcast, I very much think you will enjoy coming along and playing Antares with us, and I think you will see, as Clem did, exactly why we think it's a really, really special game. But there we go, Gerry. Any questions on that at all?
I'm blown away by the fact that you're going to be playing Antares at Mantic. Ronnie is just too nice.
Yes, he is very nice, but I don't think he sees it as a threat. If I'm completely honest,
No.
the one thing he doesn't want. No. The one thing he doesn't want is 40k being played in Mantic, I'm pretty sure. But who knows? I mean, hopefully we can sell him. Because there's some of the vehicles from Antares, just a couple of the vehicles are now in firefight. So there's some of the Concord vehicles. So who knows? Maybe we get some sales for the Mantic shop while we're there. Be really cool. But yes. I think that's sadly all I have to say about Antares, Gerry, on this Mantic podcast. What a shame.
Well, there's always next
month. Exactly right. Perfect. Great. And I've worked out a deal with my friend Giacomo, who has not got round to painting his Mythic Americas. He doesn't mind building MDF terrain, which blows my mind, but doesn't like painting models, which I find extraordinary. But, we're all individuals, aren't we? So I've done a deal with him. He's going to build some of my MDF terrain, and I'm going to paint some Mythic Americas models for him. It's a great deal for me, and yes, because I'm just not competent enough to build MDF terrain, Gerry. It's like bits break, I snap things, I get frustrated, I use the wrong kind of glue. Yeah,
it's like Homer Simpson building a barbecue.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Except I can't sell it to the art gallery at the end.
Shame.
Yes. How do you feel about building MDF kits?
I don't mind it. I'd much rather not, because I'm brutally lazy. I really like resin. As nice as you can get with MDF, it will always be very flat. So it's good for some things, less good for others.
By its nature, yes.
Yeah.
It is going to be flat.
Yes. Unless you're going to go back and start adding tons and tons of additional detailing and stuff to it, in which case I'd just buy foam board and make my own, because it's cheaper and I can, do it quicker and make it bespoke then. I will say there's a load of printed MDF coming out now. Micro Art Studios did some a couple of years ago. They're still doing a range of stuff, obviously mostly for historics, but I think they've got some for Infinity as well. And
they do really nice stuff. Their stuff looks great. And sorry, Gerry, just to interrupt, have you ever done a tutorial on scratch building foam board terrain?
No. Well, no. Let's say no. I did. I used to have a YouTube channel. I deleted that YouTube channel, so there's nothing there anymore.
On tabletop, I guess they wouldn't have any interest in you doing that. Would there be appetite for it?
Yeah.
I'd just love to see it.
I mean, I could do it. I've certainly got all the stuff in the house for it, because it's so incredibly easy. As I used to say to kids when they were just getting started into the hobby and they were looking at all the terrain on the table and say, I could never build that. It's like, well, can you make a box out of cardboard? Yeah. Well, then you can build terrain. As long as you know the sizes of the sides and the like, then you're fine. You just stick it together and on you go. Foam core is exactly the same, except it's got thickness to it, so you don't have to worry about messing around with something inside it to keep it rigid like you would with cardboard. It's very robust material, and then you can just use sheet styrene or balsa wood or combinations thereof to do whatever else you need to do. So, yeah, big fan of scratch building. Scratch building in resin.
Do you use a hot knife for cutting the foam?
No. Foam core is a sheet of card and then about 5 or 6 mil. Actually, you can get it in different thicknesses, to be fair. But I generally tend to use the 5 mil stuff. So it's 5 mil of foam and then another layer of card. So it's laminated foam. So you just use a very sharp scalpel or craft knife to go through it. And then it means when you come to do butt joints and stuff, you can hide them, because you just trim away 5 mil of the end, but leave the outer cardboard. And when you glue one piece to the next piece, the cardboard overlaps and just masks the join. So I should build some more stuff.
That sounds really cool. Okay. You've got me looking up foam core on the internet.
Foam core or foam board or mounting board, it's sometimes called, because it gets used for mounting photos and artwork and stuff like that. So it has different names in different countries. I will say you'll find some craft stores will sell it. Don't buy it from them. They put the hobby tax on it. If you're very lucky, if you're really lucky, go to your local Aldi, Lidl supermarket. the big hanging signs that they put out for offers, that for the next 3 weeks, beer is 2 crates for €10 or something like that.
Mhm.
That's generally made out of foam core, and then they just throw them in the bin afterwards. So if you look up and it's a thick bit of card, you can sometimes just go to the staff. Whenever you're taking those down, can I have them? And you get these massive like A2 sheets for free. I've made a lot of stuff in the past based on Tesco's advertising.
Oh, that's a great tip, Gerry. That's really cool. Fantastic. This is exciting. I'm good at. I mean, it's not difficult. I can make a nice looking foam hill now. That's the limit currently. But I could imagine trying to make little sort of Second World War houses or something out of foam core. I think that's probably quite a good, or a fantasy cottage or something.
I have a lot of Wild West buildings to make for Old West gunfighter games.
Very cool. Dead Man's Hand?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, we picked
I have
up
to make
as well,
them twice, though, because I'm a big fan of High Plains Drifter. So I want to make them all, and then make a second set and paint them red, so I can have the town of Largo, and just put the Welcome to Hell sign on the table.
That's really cool. We will be back after these short messages.
This is Fred reminding you to visit the Kings of War forum, kowforum.com. No ads, no commercials. That's kowforum.com.
So, Gerry, our Panathor Kings of War. Buddy, have you done any Kings of War? Played any Kings of War?
I have. I played a friend 2,000 points, Forces of Nature against his filthy, filthy elves, which was fun. Although I think he took it easy on me because he's playing around a bit with his elf list currently. So he only had the Wilt Daddy and not the Wilt Daddy plus another tree herder, which is what he had been running up until now.
Right.
Because he's just toying around trying to... I think he's going through an old collection and putting them together and then going, what can I use these for? So he's recently painted up some Wood Elf War Dancers. So he decided to run a Sylvan Kin list, added Bosk Wraiths in for the War Dancers because of their
very cool
elite attacking madness. And then he had a couple of hordes of Forest Shamblers, which generally went with the Wilt Daddy and Friend, but now sadly Wilt Daddy by himself. Gur Panthers, Stonewind Cavalry, Hunters of the Wild, some Forest Guard, and then Elf, Standard Bearer, King, and Archmage. So,
nice.
A fairly rounded group of elves. Not just playing the net list, which is good. 11 units, 22 unit strength, so very few drops in comparison.
Yeah, very elite.
Yeah. Although I only managed one better because I can't be arsed taking a lot of stuff. So I just took a technically Forces of Nature, because it did contain 3 druids. But then everything else that was in it was an elemental, pretty much. So I took 2 hordes of fire elementals, 2 hordes of air elementals, 2 hordes of earth elementals, 2 greater fire elementals, and a horde of forest shamblers. And I thought, I don't need chaff. I'm just going to push all of them together and see if Captain Planet appears. So yeah.
Did he?
He didn't, but what happened was a large chunk of my opponent's army went away. So that was almost
fantastic.
as good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Not without... There were a couple of issues where my opponent took charges he shouldn't have. So his Stonewind Cavalry, which are really, really good heavy cavalry with Pathfinder, charged a horde in the forest and did unholy things to them. The Earth Elementals were just regiments, not hordes. And so get in, thump somebody, but then couldn't get out of the way of the countercharge that was coming and just, got hit by air and a greater fire elemental and ripped apart. And that was one of his big hammers beyond his own forest shambler. So he took a couple of things he shouldn't have. Trying to think we were playing playing with the bluff counters. Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was smoke and mirrors because I had a 2-point up in the top right, and I put a unit of air elementals there. Sent them in that direction. I had a unit. The next closest unit was the anchoring point on the end of my line, so in the middle of the board, and pretty much every other token was between his army and mine. We both turtled on the same side of the board, so just 2 armies facing off across 3 foot of table, and then a big gap, and then my air elementals away by themselves, and they just went and sat on that 2-point. Did not play for the whole game. It was like, yeah, we're just going to stay here, and the rest of the armies were going to fight it out very close 2-2. At which point he discovered just how much damage things like the air elementals could do, especially when combined with the command dice. So I will say command dice are great. My first turn, I think, because I went kind of heavy with command dice, he just took his 3 red, whereas I bought a couple of extra, and in turn 1, 2 extra white, 1 on each druid. Turn 1, I think I got 6 for my command, and being able to take shambling off a unit, and when your entire army is shambling, it's really good to be able to go, that unit of elementals over there, the air elementals, are now going to fly 20 inches and then pivot. And normally in the wildest streams they couldn't do that and be sort of sitting behind his army, and so that caused him issues. Judicious use of those, which was really nice. Although I think in comparison to the previous time we played, where I just decided to be terrible with rolling double ones all the time, it was his turn. So he threw a couple of double ones, and units that should have went off stuck around for an extra turn, which was just enough to delay him so that I could get other things into position. That's the fun of double ones, and it's a rule I will fight for. I never want double ones to go, because it's that insane bit of luck that you just can't account for.
You can't mitigate for it, can you? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I agree with you.
I think it's a really, really key one. But yeah, it was good fun, and I'll definitely be rolling out the elementals again at some point for my own personal amusement. I need to get some proper air elementals, because what I'm currently using I've got waiver tokens. And I say they're waiver tokens. What they are is there's a spell effect that Reaper did for Bones, which is just a giant middle finger made in translucent plastic, because it's meant to be some sort of air spell effect that a wizard's just giving the finger. So my girlfriend got me a load of these to use as waiver tokens for Kings of War, so when somebody wavers me, I could just put them behind the unit, so they're just giving the middle finger back to my opponent for wavering them. So, because I didn't have any air elementals, it was like, well, I'll get a couple of trays out and put those waiver tokens on. So there was just 2 sets of massive middle fingers flying around the board, and they are the same size as an elemental. They're huge, but I think I should probably get some real ones.
I wonder if they come into the vault yet. Do you know?
There's been plenty of elementals in the vault. I've not actually paid any attention though.
Yeah.
It's a good shout, mind you.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. And I had so the German players we know of who were travelling to Clash of Kings in a month at time of recording. I had them all over to my house for a Sunday, and we had practice games. Clem was also there, even though he's not coming to Clash of Kings, bless him. And yeah, we had some fun games. I had one test game with lovely chap Connie, but I wasn't really paying attention and accidentally got flank charged. Kind of turn 2 when I wasn't expecting it, which is not necessarily good for my self-esteem going in and my confidence going into the tournament. At the end of the game, it was fairly tight, but yes, it was hard to row back from that. And then because Connie had quite a lot of speed 10 flying stuff, I held back some Worm Riders, so he couldn't fly behind me. But I really, really needed those Worm Riders fighting for more of the game. So I think that was also a mistake. So made a couple of mistakes. Really fun game. Connie's an absolute delight to play with. So had a great time, but lost to the Rift Forge Orcs. and that's despite my siren shutting down his shrine for all but one turn, which was brutal for him. There was, I think, one turn that my hex failed, and he did so much work on that one turn. It's incredible. So it just goes to show how important hexing that shrine really was. But yeah, we had a really good time. My teammates, Stefan, also from the Gentleman's Dice Club, he played against Clem, and he's also bringing the Trident Realms. He got soundly beaten. So yes, our team is not looking necessarily great going into Clash of Kings, but we had a lovely old time, and we're not looking to win the tournament anyway. Let's be honest, Gerry. Oh, and I finished my display board, which is my entire army does technically fit on, but then you can't see any of the display board. So, I've had to pivot to make some changes to the display board, but I'm going to try and bring it to Clash of Kings, and I can say I think my Trident Realms is basically as good as I can paint, so I'm really proud of it, to be honest. It's never ever in a million years going to win Best Painted, but I'm really proud of it, and it's mine, and I did my best, if you know Gerry. So yes, I'm looking forward to bringing my army and just being there. So yes, that's in a month's time at time of recording. Really looking forward to seeing Mark, who's flying over from the US, and lots and lots and lots of other people. And yes, it's going to be a fantastic time. So maybe actually next MUP Monthly may be after Clash. So that's interesting stuff. And I think it's fair to say we're expecting some updates from Ronnie. And at this point, I'll be shocked if we don't hear what's happening with 4th edition Kings of War. But yeah, maybe we could talk about that a little bit in our topic of the month. But yes, and I've managed to make it to Quest Hub a couple of times to play some Ambush, and I've given test game. We've had test games for some new players. There's somebody else who's asked for a test game. So our local WhatsApp group is up to 20, and it's growing. So we're not going to sit on our laurels. We're constantly trying to attract new people, because I think if you try and stay still, it just means you're slowly going backwards, if you know what I mean, Gerry. I think people do drop out and lose interest. So we're still we have a very healthy little community in Frankfurt, so that's really cool. So yeah, I think. Oh, and thanks again to my friend Stefan, who 3D printed me a ton of Mantic Basalian stuff. So when I get round to it, I can do lots of Sisterhood and some of the really cool units for Basilia. So he's 3D printed me tons and tons of stuff, loads of the hero models, even some Palace Ogres. So I'll do a couple of hordes of them. I'm not sure I really want to play them, if I'm honest. But I just like to have a pretty complete army. So I will paint them up and do them, but I don't imagine they'll get much table time, if I'm honest. It's not really my thing.
They are filth. So
yeah, they
nice.
are filth. They are
filth.
Absolutely filth. Yes, they're absolutely yes. Because they got Iron Resolve or something.
Yes,
so every time
they're ogre paladins. They
wound.
heal themselves with their ridiculous defense and crash.
Disgusting. Yeah, absolutely filthy. Yes, so they're lovely. They're gorgeous Mantic models. So I'm going to paint some up, and they'll be useful for loads of things, right? So I can the ogres. That's because ogres. It's not really my thing, but that's my the test army I just leave in Quest Hub is 750 points of ogres, but I think I'll probably put these with them, so it's to bulk it out a little bit. But yeah, but really cool stuff, and thanks again to Stefan. But I really like the Sisterhood models and the Sisterhood Scouts and all that stuff. So that's more my jam, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Cool. So there we go. I think that's anything else, Gerry, for Kings of War?
No, not from me this month. Just getting prepped for the champions. I was watching some of Steve Hildu's delightful little battle reports last week, and it's put a wee bee in my bonnet. He was playing, I can't remember who it was, maybe Chris Walsh, actually. But he's playing somebody using Abyssal Dwarves. And I'm looking at them going, those are really nice models. I've got a big Chaos or Abyssal Dwarf army. I should paint my Abyssal Dwarves. So they may get dug out from wherever they're currently hiding to do some work on them. Because I was just
yes.
looking at them, and the plastics are really nice. It's not even let down. The only thing that looks a bit subpar, shall we say, are the half breeds, so the centaurs.
Oh, that's a shame.
But because they're PVC plastic, the early stuff.
Yeah.
But I can live with that because they're not the worst models that Mantic have done in that PVC. Them and the gargoyles are both, and I've got a ton of gargoyles, and I think the gargoyles are really nice. But I've got a mountain of the new plastic. I've got a lot of the old plastic Abyssal Dwarves, which means I can use those as sort of the regulars, and then use the new plastics as the Immortal Guard with
That's
the
really
fancier armor.
That's
and
really
then
good idea.
The Hellfiend in resin is gorgeous. In fact, all the stuff in resin is gorgeous because I got all that for that. So yes, that's kind of, I could do these, and I could do these quickly via the medium of an airbrush because it's a lot of metallics. So time will tell.
Fantastic. Will you go sort of a bright? Will you go silver? Will you go gold? What are you thinking for metallics?
Have you seen how they painted the Abyssal Dwarf Vanguard set? It's almost black with a really high silver over the top, so because there's a lot of scroll work and a lot of raised detail on their armor, and that is pretty much what I'm going to do. I possibly with some gold or bronze as an accent color, but mostly they're going to get hit black, they're going to get silvered up, and then maybe like a black wash or an oil wash so that I can get a really deep black in the crevices, while having that super shiny top silver on it.
So you've got the contrast there between the deep black and the shiny. That sounds really cool.
That's my thinking. Time will tell as to whether or not I actually get it done, but I'm looking for something that will be quick.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's not much quicker than painting plate mail or armor like that, is there? That's the way to go.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, I think I'm expecting to be excited by the November release because we think there's a new army, don't we, coming to Kingsbourne in November. If for whatever reason that doesn't float my boat, I think it will. But if it doesn't, Abyssal Dwarves will be the next army I do because I love evil dwarves and all the weird kind of their horrible science experiment stuff and half breeds. And I know it's very similar to GW's. I mean I've got a Forge World GW army, and don't ask me how much I paid for it. But I feel weird about using that in Kings of War, so I would actually just get all Mantic and do it again. Yes, so if for whatever reason the November release, the new army doesn't float my boat, I'll be doing next year, definitely be doing Abyssal Dwarfs because they're great. They're great. It's a bit strange I haven't done them today, to be honest, Gerry. So I look at it and go, I love all this stuff. This is great. I suppose it's probably because I'd already done a very similar army before. But I've still got loads of Forge World kits of like the is it an ogre loading the artillery and this kind of thing, a massive kit. So so at some point I'm sure, because I think GW have announced that army is now coming to Age of Sigmar, but they're doing it all in hard plastics. But I wasn't enormously impressed actually with what I saw for the new models. So
it's not the Forge World version, and maybe they decided to do a new version for Age of Sigmar so that they can hold on to the old Forge World one if they want to bring them back into the old world.
Old world. Yeah. That's likely. I wonder if it was a decision of. The old world, it seems to be ticking along, doesn't it? But I wonder if it was kind of a financial decision. I've also seen loads of videos on YouTube of people going absolutely nuts about the new version of what's it called? The of 30k basically. Horus Heresy stuff, because they brought out a new version, and apparently they made they really strong-armed stores into buying the starter box, and it hasn't sold well, so it sort of there's a lot of ill feeling there, and I have no idea if the game is any good or anything like that. And my friend Caleb plays it, but yes, seemed like a strange launch for the new 30k version. It seemed to be dead before anyone played it, but that's a shame, because that's at least a little bit away from 40k and the things I don't like about that game.
By all accounts, it's the better game. If you want to play a halfway decent sci-fi game, between the two of them, 30k plays much better than 40k does. So, but I've not been near any of them since forever.
Right. Oh, interesting. Cool. Perfect. We will be back after these short messages.
And now it's time for Punny Lore. See what we've done there?
Gerry, you've done it once before. Can you do it again? Panelore. I've written here Osgun gets killed by a big axe, but obviously the way you explain it is far more wonderful than that. What can you tell us, Gerry?
Well, I mean, he does get killed by a big axe. As a bit of a preview / reason we were doing this was when we were looking at the champions box for the ogres, Arokamora. There's a bit of a background for her, that she lived right by the Abyssal Rift and got annoyed during the last global campaign when people flooded their village on the steppes. And that put me in mind of the reason why there is a massive rift in the middle of the world, because of the God War itself. So when they arrived, the Celestials, the Shining Ones themselves, when they came to Panathor from wherever they came from, acting like gods, not really behaving themselves, they were essentially immortals playing in a sandbox. And the sort of the time of light, as it was known, they essentially overpowered or replaced, subsumed the old gods of Panathor, whoever they happened to be, whether they were naturally godlike themselves or whether they were just incredibly powerful beings who thought we're having some of that. Could go either way. But within their ranks was a very unhappy little godling called Oscan, who, for some reason, didn't want to be a Celestian, didn't want to be a Celestian. He was very much self-destructive, seeking possibly oblivion for himself and everybody else like him, along with everybody on Panathor to a greater or lesser extent. So he started tinkering, manipulating an elf, Calasor Fenulian, and over the course of time got him to create the famous Fenulian mirror, which may or may not have been a mirror. Nobody really knows. It may just have been some sort of viewing screen or piece of strange magic or tech. But it was part of a sequence of events that Oscan engineered that would split the Celestians.
Using
literally,
a creepy elf.
Well, all elves are by nature the worst, and this one was particularly bad, because he really did. He started, after being knocked back for somebody he'd seen once, rather than respect that decision, started asking friends, family, the king, anybody else, if they could help to romance her. Eventually ended up bumping into Oscan, and Oscan came up with this mirror project that required Calasor to essentially traverse most of the known world for years to get this together. And so he spent all this time doing this and eventually introduced his proposed beloved to look into it, with a caveat that she shouldn't look into it beyond the singing of a golden bird. But when she decided to look there, she did. The bird crows.
Gerry, until the golden bird bit, she was on board with getting married to him, right? She'd seen a lovely future for herself and her lovely kids she would have with him. So she was, at this point, the dubious plan had worked. I always find it, Gerry, very interesting that the baddie, Oscar, warns them not to listen past this point. Because obviously it seems like it was his plan all along, unless he's quite nihilistic. It seemed like it was his plan all along, obviously, to manipulate the creepy elf into doing this so that the mirror would split, etc. Why did he give that surprisingly honest warning?
There's no reason anywhere listed for it. So it's one of these things where people assume that potentially some goodness was still in him, and he was attempting to give a warning that way. If you think of potentially multiple personalities, maybe he was swinging back to the good on that occasion,
or maybe for whatever reason he just had to blame the elf, right? So this way he's put he's stored the fuel next to the fire, but he's told someone not to wear a shell suit, by a campfire. But he's left them the shell suit there. So I don't know. Maybe for whatever reason, maybe it had to be the elf's fault. Sort of, ultimately it kind of was, or was it her fault because she kept watching? I forget exactly how that was.
She kept watching, and by the time Calisaur realised that she should have stopped and tried to lead her away, it was too late. Now, maybe it was a case that she was never going to stop regardless of what warning was given to her, and Oscar knew that, and therefore it seems like, because if you think about what happened next with the God War itself, people didn't realise he was evil, essentially, until some considerable time. So maybe he gives the warning knowing there's nothing that they can do to prevent it, and therefore when everything goes wrong, the mirror is smashed and the Celestials are split into the two halves of their being, nobody expects that he is to blame because he gave a warning that the elf didn't use.
So because he ended up sort of assassinating quite a lot of Shining Ones, sort of like, oh, just join me in this broom cupboard, I've something to show you, and then murdering them. He got away with that sort of thing for quite a while before they really wised up to the fact that he was driving this.
Exactly. Yeah. He'd managed to gain the title the Father of Lies. Sorry, because of the actions he took there at the start. Once the sundering had happened, he started reaching out and touching people, using a dagger that he called Calisaur's Sorrow. So I think that contains part of the mirror within it, and that was used to forge the axe later on. So yes, he was able to slay about 24 Shining Ones before people learned about what he was doing. And then by that stage, the Wicked Ones who had been sort of posturing for power realised exactly who was in charge, and rallied to his cause and his banner. And at that point, sort of battle lines were drawn then.
Do we know what happened to Calisaur after the mirror smashed?
Oh, yes. Oh, he was crucified. So the sort of the initial outbreak of trouble. Oh no, hang on. That was part of the mirror. No, Calisaur himself, don't know what happened. But based on what the mirror showed, he was crucified by his own men, who kind of blamed him for causing all of the problems. So I think that's probably it. He falls out of the story. Elves don't record what happens to him, and it makes a lot of sense. When you've accidentally split gods into their higher and base forms, you probably don't want to be crowing about what you've done since.
Yeah, probably just lay low for a couple of weeks, until that something else will happen on Twitter, and then
Yeah, that all blew over.
exactly, absolutely. So yeah, fantastic. So we end up with a sort of the apocalyptic good versus evil battle, which it's sort of fascinating. So the imagine going to battle with your the good half of yourself or the bad half of yourself. That's you talk about civil wars in games and things like that. That is the ultimate civil war, perhaps. So yes, a very, very strange situation for all, and of course, Oscan, I think, forged a lot of the certainly the evil races and also the Trident Realm to have foot troops to fight this big war, right? Because he needed bodies to fight against the humans and the elves and the dwarves, etc.
Yeah.
So I know he forged the orcs and a few other factions as well, I think.
Well, he didn't do the orcs. Weirdly, he created the first sort of abyssal demons. If you think about the wicked ones aren't demons themselves; they are fallen angels, fallen gods, whatever you want to call them. They're not actually demons. But then the first creations that Oscan made were actually the equivalent of the sort of abyssal fiends or that sort of thing. The titans that are currently fielded in Kings of War. This is what Oscan made. He reached into the abyssal rift and pulled out the matter in there, or the ethereal bits in there, mixed it with his own power, and called forth these living embodiments of his evil sort of nature. So he started making these massive, monstrous fiends that are the Lord-like powers within the abyssal structure today. Other wicked ones of lesser power tried to copy him, and then they made the lower abyssals, and that's because they didn't have the same sort of force of will or power that Oscan had. Garkhan the Black, he made the orcs, and he is also responsible for the Rift Forged more recently.
Oh, that's him. Yeah, that's him.
So yeah, the sudden influx of a force to fight for them was required, and so they all sort of everybody pitched in. But it's fascinating to think that the massive, the absolutely titanic creatures that you might feel, the abyssal fiends are the rank and file troops that Oscan was using in this war. That's where the power level was at that time, shall we say. It wasn't just little tiny demons bopping each other and then Basilians poking them with a spear. You were having to deal with these things because they were attempting to fight gods. There were shiny ones were having to get involved in the war.
So it reminds me a bit of Greek mythology, like the war against the Titans, that kind of thing.
Oh, yes. Definitely that sort of... If the Titans and the gods had both then had to get chaff on their side, so, the gods have got humanity and the Titans are looking at that and thinking, well, we need to make something to deal with this, and so create an opposing force. It's very, very similar. They're just grist for the mill, as the man says.
Very cool. So Oscan, he tricks people. There's then this massive good versus evil war. Goes on for a long time. And then, Gerry, where do we end up?
Well, eventually the Shining Ones, or whoever's left, alongside all of the forces of Primovantor, would belatedly become Basileia these days. But at that stage, it was still mixed. So humans, elves, you had a whole mixed bag in there. And then dwarves who weren't really on board with the Celestians anyway. They knew they existed. They had more important things to be doing. But they all came together to actually face off Oscan and his army in the northeastern plains. And while the two armies sort of clashed in a massive Ronnie Renton-like battle with as many miniatures on the table as you can, above them, Domovar and Oscan were were there fighting above them all. And Oscan had, for some reason, become more powerful as the war had gone on. So whether or not that was because of his nature, the destruction that was being wrought around them, or maybe it was just a case of the more time the rift had been opened was just sort of fueling him further. But wielding his massive axe, which contained the power from his dagger, Calisaur's Sorrow, it was taking absolute chunks out of Domovar's armor. He was fighting with his father's sword, and every time he attempted to attack Oscan, it would just be repelled, barely scratching his hide. But every time he lashed out with his axe, it would cleave straight into the armor until eventually Oscan's axe shattered Domovar's sword, and fragments scattered all over the place with the celestial power was released. So yeah, the unfortunate thing for Oscan, though, is that deep within the blade there was a splinter of the shard that had killed Elena Thora, the lady who had gazed into the mirror. And so when the axe was smashed, that tiny splinter was enough to stab into Oscan and weaken him in some way. And the shard started as a mere irritation, but as he continued to fight, he got weaker. And while Domovar was lying on the ground and Oscan swung his axe from above, the blow he delivered was slower, and Domovar was able to easily avoid it. And every time he swung, the swing was weaker, wilder, and less focused than it had been, until eventually Domovar grabbed the hilt of the axe and took it from Oscan's fingers himself, and then with a cry drove it towards the ground, bringing it down with all his force, straight through Oscan and into the ground itself. And the impact was devastating. It just smashed the ground between them, and the gap formed the maw that is in the northern plains, which then obviously had a destructive effect on the rest of Panathor, as the massive gaping wound in the planet spewed forth molten magma, and earthquakes followed. The abyssal armies were left retreating into there, along with the wicked ones, and the forces of Primavanter and the elves, dwarfs, humans. Whoever survived had to flee, as the world sort of failed at that point.
Very cool. And then, of course, the consequences of that are what we're sort of dealing with at the timeline we're playing Kings of War, right? There's obviously the Abyss. There's a big scar on the Earth itself. And what's the Abyss, Gerry? Is it basically another dimension?
It's both the gateway to it, as well as being a sort of physical manifestation of it on Panathor.
Isn't it sort of a bit of a prison as well? Aren't they kind of trapped in there at times? There's something like that?
Yeah. It's where they're living trapped within the abyss in the rift, but at certain times the power of the rift itself, or the nature of the rift, expands and changes to allow them to manifest into our reality, which is why the delightful knights used to have their watchtowers around it. The poor old Brotherhood.
The Brotherhood, yes.
Yes. We'll not see their likes again. So if you think that occasionally abyssals were able to slip out and they needed to be repelled, and sometimes you would get bigger waves, so kind of like sort of Native Americans attacking watch houses and outposts as the American expansion progressed. Sometimes it might be a small amount on a single raid, and then other times there was whole war hosts were sort of coming. So these little watchtowers were dotted around it, trying to contain the raids that would essay out every now and again, rather than it being a constant step up from the abyss to our world. It's sort of occasionally releases some.
It reminds me a little bit of when Joss Whedon used to be asked about how fast the spaceship Serenity moves, and his answer was it was brilliant. It moves at the speed of plot, So I think the Abyss is something similar, as it's flexible enough so that whatever cool thing we want to happen, it's the Abyss is allowing loads of forces of the Abyss to be spewing out, or for the Brotherhood to fall into the Abyss or whatever. It's flexible enough that we can just tell cool stories with it.
Yeah, and I think that's key, as we've seen during Halpi's Rift, where the global campaign was built around one of these sort of waxing abyssal events where there was enough coming out that they could change the world to a certain extent, and it was up to whoever was up there, dwarf, elf, or human, even halflings, to try and hem them back in and keep them in their place. So,
have they done, Gerry? Have they done the remastered version where the halflings have been added in later, and then they've managed to have destroyed the tapes of the original?
Not so far, not that I've seen. see if people pick up the digital version of Halpi's Rift and see if whether or not there's been an extra.
Oh, look! Was that forest troll always there? Who knows? Yeah, perfect, perfect. Super, and it's all suitably epic, isn't it, Gerry? Is it? And I think you're a fan of this story, right? This sort of this myth.
I mean, it sets up quite a lot in there beyond the world itself. It sets up the nature of reality for Panathor. The fact that the Celestians weren't initially from Panathor. They may not have been gods. They may just have been an alien race of a suitably different enough that they appeared to be gods. I think it's Arthur C. Clarke. Any technology sufficiently advanced will appear as magic to a lesser advanced civilization, and that's what I think the Celestials were.
Yeah, but also, does it really matter? In as much as, they were so far in advance of people that if people want to think of them as gods rather than just far more advanced, then does it matter actually? Do you think? The Celestians were obviously vain enough to allow themselves to be worshipped, but
No, it does, as far as the game or the background goes, it doesn't make a jot of difference. But when we look at things like the Night Stalkers now, who also travel between realities, it leads. Panathor hasn't been completely explored yet. However, even when they do explore it all, years down the line, it's not alone in the universe. We know that, so it means you could get something else coming in. Maybe an exodus of aliens from another world coming. There is room to change and mold Panathor beyond it because it's not isolated.
So even when we map out the globe and that's finished, there's still tricks they can pull to get new things happening. And absolutely, I think that's really cool. Perfect, super. Gerry did a great job of reciting that epic story. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the feedback from Wiki Dave, and he'll say, "Well, actually," but that was a super job. Thanks, buddy. Should we move on to some listener questions?
Oh, yes, indeed.
We will be back after these short messages.
I'm Brandon Rossbond of Winged Hussar Publishing. So much universe, so little time.
So, Gerry, listener questions. So, apologies, dear listener. Facebook is a horrible website for actually finding things that are old posts and things like this. But I've dug out some listener questions. So we've got sort of two batches. The first one is regular listener questions, and then we've got, Gerry, your the questions you asked people to ask Ronnie. So let's go through the normal questions first. We've got quite a lot, so maybe we can keep things moving forward. So I'll read out the first one from Martin Hawk, friend of the pod. Hey, Martin. Do you think Mantic should go with the Halo FP or I don't know what this is. I guess it's
a Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Model for regular Kings of War also, e.g. pre-assembled plastic models right out the box, to be much more beginner-friendly, lowering the entry barrier, like Mantic did with Kings of War Champions, to kickstart new players right into the games and the hobby in general. To expand on this further, maybe Mantic could focus more on the casual narrative play to grasp a bigger audience, e.g., with removing list building, etc. Okay, so there's really two bits to the question. The first bit is, should Mantic sell models which are pre-assembled, basically like nice board game pieces? And then, okay, so for this bit, Gerry, I could understand if it's in, for example, a Champions box. Yeah, I can see the logic in that. Most of the Walking Dead stuff, for example, was PVC models. Only the later stuff was kind of in resin. I mean, obviously that's good for new players. It's not necessarily good for hobbyists. And let's say, for example, you need blokes with spears for a regiment or even a horde. I wouldn't necessarily want, as a hobbyist, who's someone who's very experienced in the hobby, wouldn't necessarily want all exactly the same poses. So for me, hard plastics doing a Kings of War army is the best situation. What do you think, Gerry?
There's a couple of things. I don't mind so much the limited poses. I think with A Song of Ice and Fire, there might be 3 poses per box and 15 figures in a box, something like that, or maybe 12 figures in a box.
So it's enough you can kind of get away with, I suppose. Yeah. And if you've got a block of spearmen, they're probably trained to hold a similar position anyway, as in, hold your, they're trained together, right? So hold your spear like this, hold your shield like this.
Yeah. It's not hugely different than buying a blister pack of metal was, where you would get 3 different poses in a blister. So limited pose isn't a massive negative for me. I have a sneaking suspicion they work out slightly more expensive. Although that might be something to do with the IP pricing as well. But the thing with the pre-assembled stuff, if you look at Steamforge do Epic Encounters, which is a box of single pose PVC plastic board game sort of figures for people to use for RPGs. And some of them are really nice, but they tend to be quite expensive. And the more glue points, the more expensive they become. So it's cheaper to produce a static looking model with a sword and shield. If they want to have the pose to be more dynamic, so maybe the sword's coming over their head and the shield's blocking a blow, which means they can't make it in one mold, they might have to make it in a body and then the 2 arms. Getting little, I'm going to assume Chinese, might be Taiwanese, whoever it is who produces them, they charge per the glue point. So the model that has 2 separate arms costs more than the model that has no posing in it. And then if you happen to be adding on a cloak, then that's an additional charge again. And they can all mount up, which is a really odd way of looking at things. I think Champions boxes it would be bang on for, mind you. But yeah, for actually modelling, I much prefer hard plastic. Also, you're less likely to suffer from bendy spear syndrome, which sometimes it'll straighten out and then will slowly bend back again over the course of time. So you constantly end up with having to break out the hairdryer to get the models sort of in a better position.
Okay, excellent. And then, yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, maybe in a perfect world, Mantic would do, the kind of the models we've mentioned, so similar to a Song of Ice and Fire in the Champions boxes, and then do hard plastics. But I imagine that's very much doubling up Mantic's costs. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I imagine that is helpful for bringing in new players. How helpful, I'm not sure. And I suppose it depends who Mantic are trying to attract. The second point, removing list building, etc., for Kings of War 4th edition. I mean, Dead Zone. I mean, yeah. I mean, I always find it really useful if there are kind of beginner lists, and I think it's something Clem always talks about. Is if but the Champions boxes are perfect. You don't need to do list building. You just buy that box, and that's your force. There's no list building. So I think that very much hits that. Yeah, I mean, if there was a Dead Zone box you can buy that just has everything for a let's say, I don't know, I forgot how the points work now, 100 points game of Dead Zone or something, then of course, that would be really nice.
I mean, they have done something like that for Dead Zone.
Yeah.
When they released the 3D printed stuff through My Mini Factory, they came up with 200-point lists. So all of those models in them come from other games. So I was able to go through Star Saga, Dread Ball, some Dead Zone stuff, and pull out the various pieces and make these 200-point lists, which are fixed. You're not allowed to tailor them in any way, shape, or form. Should they be doing it for Dead Zone and Kings of War 4? No, God, no. They're very specific games. I think if you turned around and went, there's not going to be any list building or points for your armies. Let's say 70% of the Kings of War players are probably hardcore tournament players of some description, or competitive players at least. If you turn around and go, bring whatever you want, and I'll bring whatever I want, then you'll go, well, very shortly they'll be finding another game. And some people really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy the list building. To go for a bigger audience, I think do it in a different way. So the Champions game, where you don't have any list building, that's ideal. Are people more likely to grab that, knowing that there is a complete box, or to pick up a 200-300 model army, where you turn around and go, there's no list building. It's 300 odd models, and then you're stuck with it. That's not I don't think that would be a selling point.
No. Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So let's let's just keep things moving forward. I'm just reading the comments people have made to Martin's post, and there's just one thing I wanted to mention, as Wolfgang mentioned. Sounds interesting, but remember what happened to Confrontation. They went from metals to pre-build and pre-painted plastics. Yeah, well, it's that and fraud. Multiple frauds.
A lot of
killed
fraud.
The company. Oh, so much fraud.
Oh. You wouldn't believe how much fraud, up to and including the attempt to relaunch it via Kickstarter, where they decided to take everybody's money again.
I so nearly backed that, and then, in fact, I think I did, and then pulled it because I saw the comments, and it was people saying, "Look how many models are they saying you're going to get in resin versus how much money you're giving. This is impossible. This is not right." So I might just back out of this. Perfect. Yes, but maybe this is a story for another time. But very interesting. So very good. So Alfred Eisenman. Am I the only one who is disappointed in the PR work for Kings this year? So let's put a pin in that, Gerry, and refer to it back in our topic of the month. And then Wolfgang goes on to say, no, at the moment, Mantic seems to be the company that does Halo and some other stuff. Connie, who beat me the other week at Kings of War, says, the only actual new Kings of War release we got was the Basilean Paladins, the cavalry sprue he's referring to. The rest of the Champions releases are not usable in classic Kings of War. Not yet, anyway. I'm going to editorise that by saying, bit of a disappointing year for the flagship games so far. So this, dear listener, is why we're having this as a bit of a quick topic of the month. Steve Evans, hey Steve, lovely to hear from you, buddy. I hate to say it, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think Halo will now become Mantic's flagship product, and Kings of War will be pushed down to just another one of their games. I've got a horrible feeling 4th edition may end up being a real disappointment and fracture the community, which will be gutting. I really hope I'm wrong. And Steve's a lovely man, and he's definitely not the kind of person to troll on the internet. So, yes, I very much think he does. Really, really think his heart's in the right place. Tom Freeman, hey Tom, friend of the pod. Opinions on the dead. So anyway, let's roll that over to the Kings of War chat. Topic of the month. Opinions on the Dead Zone and Firefight updates, please. There is a lot of them. I will have to take your word for that, and you'll have to wait for more competent people than me. Apologies. Jamie Bullen, what is the best reading order to make sure you cover the fluff so it makes the most sense? Jamie, WikiDave is the person for that. I will fire in this question. I think on the new novels, they actually tell you at the beginning. I think there's kind of a timeline for when the events are. And as I understand it, I think it actually tells you which book is at what point in the timeline. So I think that's the best place for it. But definitely Wiki Dave can shed some light on this. I think if you listen back to some of his episodes on MUP, I think he has talked about this at length, actually. So, yeah, I'll fire him the question and maybe I can get a bit more feedback for you. Thanks, Jamie. So, Fred, lead editor of the podcast, was not here when I edited that episode. Can you please cover some of the changes to Firefight? No, we can't, Fred. I'm sorry. Since countercharge is allowed to pronounce Basilia trademark however they please, should MUP also get to pick one faction name and butcher it for the foreseeable future? And which one? Oh, I like this. What can't we pronounce? That's a good question. We can say abyss. We can say that. Abyssal. I've always found abyssal dwarves a bit tricky.
Does it have to be Kings of War, though?
No, please, Gerry, I'm struggling, so throw in whatever you've got.
I'm just throwing it out there. We don't necessarily have to limit ourselves to destroying Kings of War factions, although surely the Trident Realms of Neuretica is right up there for some terrible pronunciation.
Oh, good point. I can't even remember whether I think it's Trident Realms plural, isn't it? Oh, no, Jeremy, that's it. Trident Realms, that's it. Because I just call them Trident Realms. There we go.
Good. Nobody remembers it has a name, and nobody knows where Neuretica is. And
Undersea Weirdos.
And if it is pronounced Neuretica, who knows? It could go either way.
Perfect. Yes, we need to get Matt Gilbert on to ask him.
Feeling that, we can all destroy Asterians in the Warpath universe.
Very good. Yes. Okay. Great answers. Fantastic. Perfect. I'm very happy with the way that went. Well done, Gerry. You say, as always, you saved us there. So, Gerry, we'll now move on to the questions. So you ask people, give me questions so I can ask Ronnie when I see him. So if I read out the question, buddy, and you answer them as best as you can. So, Ala Ashard. Hey, Ala. What are the plans for building the Firefight player base? It was a game of the year. Firefight is clearly awesome. He's right there. What is the target audience for new players? X40K, new to tabletop, other, ? Also, what challenges has the success of Halo brought for Mantic? It's clearly an overall big plus, but has it created additional challenges? Interesting. What do you think, Gerry?
So, as far as the Halo bit, I'll do that first because I did get a chance to talk to Ronnie about it. It is the biggest selling game I think they've ever had outside of a Kickstarter, and possibly even when you include Kickstarters as well. So it has been absolutely mammoth. The biggest challenge has been keeping it in stock, I think. And it's strange because they announced it about a year, 8 months in advance, something like that. There was this is going to be coming to pre-order. Then it came to pre-order and went, we're going to be pre-ordering it now, but we're not going to be releasing it for however long it was going to be. So there was a big lead up for it. And then they still managed to blow through the initial and subsequent print runs. So it's doing great work. And that has been one where Ronnie has been looking at it going, well, people are coming and seeing it and then taking a look at what Mantic are doing across the board. So they've never heard of Mantic. Some of them haven't heard of tabletop gaming until they started to see this pop up, either through computer playing YouTubers and stuff who got it because they play Halo. So that's brought people across, and obviously the stepping stone is from Halo to Dead Zone and then subsequently into Firefight and the like. I think there are big plans for Firefight. I've not had a look at the updates because it arrived while I was planning for Ronnie and Warlord Games to come over, so I haven't had a chance to go through it. But when I was chatting briefly to Ronnie about it, saying, the Firefight, the decision to go for PDF rather than a printed book means that they could do a much bigger update than usual. But the whole concept of building the player base is always a tricky one for a company because you're always looking to bring more people in. And the best way to do that is word of mouth, which might be one of the reasons why they're going to Germany, because they've not done a Mantic Open Day outside of Mantic's headquarters itself, really. I know they've obviously turned up to things in Australia and Gen Con or Adepticon and do a big hurrah around those, but they've not done a specific, we're going to go to I don't know if it's a game shop or venue specifically to do an open day outside of that. So I think outreach is probably going to be the bigger one for them. And then it's target audience is everyone. From what Ronnie was saying, there's no point in limiting yourself. Obviously, ex-GW players, there's going to be a lot more of those than any other sort of tabletop company, and then brand new to the tabletop. That's a challenge because people need to know that tabletop gaming exists. And how do you know Mantic exists if you're not into tabletop gaming? It's by somebody showing it to you. So Pathfinders and just sort of outreach is the massive thing there for growing it.
Yeah, fantastic, Gerry. Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak to any comment on the challenges of the success Halo has brought?
No, unfortunately, I can't talk about any challenges on that one. But from what we've seen, it hasn't impacted the plans for other things because Champions has come out while they're still doing Halo. They've only just brought out the second faction for Halo, though, and the third faction's only been announced. So it's very slow moving. They're not attempting to push it all out at once, which means I think they can get away with actually having other things going on in the background.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit deceptive as well, because I think people get the impression there's constantly things coming out for Halo, and that's actually not the case. We've only just had the kind of Wave 2 stuff now. It just seems to be it's so popular, people are talking about it. So I think maybe some Kings of War people get the impression there's been constant Halo releases, but it hasn't really been like that, to be honest, has it, Gerry?
No. In fact, I think there were more Kings of War releases in January this year than there has been for Halo in total.
And I would say as well, I mean, you need less stuff for Halo, right? It's, once you've got the starter box, that's already quite a lot of stuff that, you're in a good position. If you get the Spartan edition, it's already quite a pretty good start. Super. Anyway, we can. Yes, I think that's fine for the time being. John Green Jr. Hey, John, steal his hat. I will give you 20 quid for it. Okay. Did you steal the man's hat?
He was not wearing his hat. He did not bring a hat for me to steal, presumably because he knew I would.
Yes, absolutely. Matt Brown, are there any plans for a The Walking Dead, Halo, Warpath, Panathor crossover? I'm not really sure what he means by a crossover, if I'm honest. How do you interpret that question?
I think he wants them to put all the IPs into a bucket and shake them up, boil them over the desk. And no, there isn't, because they're all separate and distinct. The Xbox people won't let them put Walking Dead into Halo. And
no, good point. Yeah. Yes, good point. Yes, and I'm not sure. Do we want to see the Master Chief fighting Laurie from The Walking Dead? I don't know. Not sure. I think the Master Chief would be really good at fighting the Plague. I think that's fair to say. But
that's true. Yeah.
One
step away from Flood.
Super. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, the Flood is cool. Are there? And now a series of questions from yours truly. Is there a planned new edition of Dead Zone? I think we've discussed that already, and the answer is no. Any plans for more sci-fi novels? I was thinking particularly with the mini stuff coming.
Yeah,
big scale.
I think the answer to that one was that there's definitely stuff coming. They're just trying to get the right people in place at Winged Huzzah to sort of progress that, because the ones that are out there have certainly hit big. In some cases, though, it's people have come with a story that they've pitched to Winged Huzzah for Panathor. So there's been a lot more people have been going, oh, here's a story I really want to tell for Kings of War, rather than them specifically going, well, here's 20 Kings of War novels that we need to get out. So I think some of it will require writers to be looking to pitch things. And then obviously they have certain ones that Matt has plotted out because they have an expansive storyline sort of briefed for both Kings and for the Warpath universe. So every couple of years, they want to progress the timeline by, I think, 10 years. I think that's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you see a global campaign happening, then the following year, that it should have all of affected the timeline of the universes, so it's not static, and there will be novels to accompany sort of major features or major things that are happening.
That sounds really cool. And I wonder if they'll have kind of models, new versions of old character models, like old, the old version of this character or whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, certainly updated ones. For example, the dwarf from Dungeon Saga, Reardon.
Reardon, yeah, that's him.
Yeah. He apparently is going to be taking a big front and center part in Kings of War and the storyline for Panathor in the next couple of years. So I imagine he'll get a proper model that doesn't rely on you having bought Dungeon Saga or Dungeon Saga Origins to use him.
Right. Really cool. Yeah. Fantastic. When is the new Dreadball game coming to Kickstarter?
Soon-ish. There is a open day next weekend for playtesting. I say open day, it's not. You had to apply to get into that one. So when we're recording this, it will be next Saturday. Yes, next Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the idea is to go to Kickstarter, I think, later on this year. I've known who's working on the new rules for some time now, and I'm still not able to say next week after that playtest is done, because I think he's going to be there. Everybody will know who's working on it.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I've been
pull a curtain back, and there'll be Rob Berman. I don't know, dear listener. I'm making jokes.
Yeah,
I have no inside information. Jerry's not told me. Exciting stuff. That's really cool.
I think Ronnie was saying, because the Animus game is relatively small, because it's just that card and board game thing. I think he said there might be something else planned before Dreadball, like a short Kickstarter to be delivered later this year. Whether that's going to be another Advent calendar-y thing or something, I don't know.
That. Yeah, I was wondering that. In my own mind, I was convinced Assassin's Creed was going to be based on the Dead Zone rules, sort of similar to Halo, if that makes sense. I wonder as well if because it's Ubisoft, I wonder if there's any other properties Mantic could, Far Cry or something, I don't know, that they could get their teeth into, but that's maybe a topic for another day.
Mm.
Perfect. And this one's a bit sad. Which will be first in Firefight, Rebs or Nameless? Well, we know Rebs didn't get the social media cut through they wanted. Yeah, I mean, it would be lovely to have another faction in Firefight, but who knows?
It does sound like Rebs, though, are further along in that regard than the Nameless will be.
Right. They just haven't been pushed up the queue to do them imminently.
Yeah. Although anybody who's played Star Saga, there's a lot of Nameless in PVC plastic, which, again, could be rolled out quite easily.
So I basically, I have enough models of that for Firefight. I bought someone else's collection and I already had quite a lot. So I genuinely have enough Nameless to play Firefight, because I was just, I just assumed it was coming. So I have a massive Nameless. Maybe I'm the only person that has a large Nameless.
Oh no, I've got a fearsome amount as well, courtesy of Star Saga.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Nice. So we're ready, and that's of course that's Undersea Weirdos. So that's absolutely my jam. That's my wheelhouse. Perfect. So okay, still Rebs, but no time soon. I mean, we got the Night Stalkers in. I thought that was a very shrewd move from Mantic. That was a smart thing to do. Perfect. So, Gerry, should we move on to the topic of the month?
Oh yes, let's please.
We will be back after these short messages.
This is Ronnie Renton, and you are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast.
So, Gerry, the first aspect of this is obviously I'd recommend the dear listener to check out your On Tabletop YouTube video where you interview Ronnie, and you also have some demos, as you mentioned earlier. But I was just wondering if there was any kind of after dark stuff. Maybe there was something you didn't touch on tabletop, or maybe it's not right for that audience, or maybe you weren't allowed to. Who knows? I just wanted to give you a chance just to talk about the experience of Mantic coming. What you thought, and just give you a chance just to chat on, really.
Yeah, I mean the only things we really chatted about that I can't talk about are the things I've already mentioned that I can't talk about. So, a few bits and pieces that have crept up or are coming up. I'm
going to say as well, Gerry, there is one thing that I can't talk about that I'm so excited about, and it's absolutely killing me. I can't mention it, but I think for next month we can probably talk about it. But it's frustrating having things you can't talk about, particularly because I'm so forgetful and not that bright. So it's holding things back is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world for me. Sorry, Gerry, carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to live with those little sort of bits and pieces that sort of creep up on you every now and again. But Ronnie was over with Jack Caesar of Caesar Inc. / River Horse. So he's a board game and RPG rules writer. And I mean, we just have a smashing time.
Presumably he couldn't get the rights to call his company Hail Caesar. Imagine that.
Well, it's him and his brother. So Chris and Jack are the two Caesars. And Caesar is actually their surname. So it's
really cool.
It's nice to have in the grand scheme of things.
That's really cool.
But yeah, they came over. They were only over with us for 3 days. So we had a day sort of chat and playing Animus, and then did the sort of interview chat video with Ronnie where we tried to remember what was going on, because it's one of these things where you start talking, it's like, we're going to talk about this, this, and this, and then you get engrossed in one aspect and then sort of forget to do bits. Well, Ronnie had a list of stuff, but jump around a lot, as is his want in life.
Yes.
And then the third day, they airdropped Clive. I'll say it was Clive, for Warpath, and that was good fun. So I think the Let's Play is going to be out at the start of September. And I think the pre-orders go up on the 1st of September, and our Let's Play will be the 2nd of September. And that gave me an opportunity to fight it out against Ronnie using the Filthy Enforcers. Well, I had the sweet, lovely, fluffy Plague. And two super
Wholesome.
Heavies. Yeah. All
Very
of them.
cool. Very cool.
But yeah, it was just anytime they're across, it's always good fun to get the folks over. Last time round, it was Matt and Rob were over, so it just gave us an opportunity to sort of catch up. And one of the things I was talking to Ronnie about was to try and do it more often, rather than come in and go, oh, we've done all of this for the last 6 months, and then we've got all of this coming for the next 6 months, and it's
do
all
it
very
periodically. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Try and
more focused.
Catch up with them on a more regular basis.
Because I mean, it's as well from the kind of the listener or the watcher's perspective. I can tell you as well is that we've only got so much hobby money and hobby time and all the rest of it, right? Everything's so limited, and so if there's a video where somebody talks about 5 or 6 different things, it's hard. I don't know. It almost feels too much, So if you're talking about 2 or 3 things, it feels a lot more achievable than more all in one. So I think that's a very good idea, Gerry, to get it sort of more often but more focused. I think that would certainly help me as a consumer. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's always the way, and I mean it's one of those things where you're going, what can you do, or what do you want to do? And we were spitballing that maybe we could have done something with Dreadball when they were over, and then Ronnie was going, yes. And then later on it was like, it probably won't be that far along in the development to actually do it. So the decision was to go for Warpath and Assassin's Creed instead.
I was wondering as well, actually, Gerry, and I'm sure Tabletop has done this in the past, but I was wondering as well. I mean, for example, if you've got Mantic or Warlord or whichever, one of these Corvus Belli, if you know you've got them coming, it feels like a really good excuse to have like a little narrative event or something. And I wonder if you could sell a few tickets. I mean, I'd be delighted to, if I knew Ronnie was coming over, for example, and if you had a little narrative event that was maybe linked to the story that's happening at the moment in whatever game system, that sounds really exciting to me. I know that in the past on Tabletop have kind of offered these kind of weekend tickets with hotels and things like that, or accommodation and that kind of thing. I wonder if that's something that could appeal.
I mean, it's definitely something I would be interested in. It's finding the right thing you could do. So Champions would be excellent for it. Kings of War, not so much.
Right, I'm with you. Yeah,
because
okay.
If you've only got 3 days and your first day is going to be spent putting together your army and then possibly trying to get paint on it or at least get it primed, then
yes, you wouldn't necessarily want to give people advanced boxes because then probably weird stuff will happen, right?
So it needs to be something that is small enough that it's achievable. So I mean, The Walking Dead boot camp was terrific amount of fun. Champions would work because it's focused and it's limited.
Right.
And, you can only build war bands the way the war bands are. So it's very easy. If you want to do something else like firefights probably doable. Dead Zone's definitely doable. Warpath, might be because it's small enough.
Yeah.
But whenever you have something like that, it tends to be structured in such a way that the company just wants to do that, whether it's a new release or something. So it tends to be in like whereas when they're coming over to film, generally the scheduling is much tighter,
right?
Because if they're going to be filming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then our weekenders are filmed on Thursday, which means they're either sitting around twiddling their thumbs on the Thursday while we're doing other stuff, or having to possibly, try and get their own work done from a hotel bedroom. But yeah, the boot camps are a lot of work.
Right.
To try and get them ready, because in most cases you're going, well, we're going to have to put 8 tables or 9 tables of terrain together for a game that we didn't have any terrain for.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it might be. I mean, if it's quite a generic, I suppose if it's sort of a generic sci-fi universe, maybe you can get away with it, or a generic fantasy, maybe. But no, I get it. Yes.
But even when it is generic, because of the way Warren and Lloyd run the place, they don't like reusing previous things. So even though we've had maybe a couple of bold action events, it's like, how can we change this? How can we make this different from last time? How can we
make sure it's fresh and appealing?
Better. Yeah. So
interesting.
You end up having to do all sorts of weird and wacky stuff to do that. And when it comes to a new game like Warpath, where it's a different scale as well, all of a sudden you're looking at it going, oh my, well, 10 mil sci-fi. Don't have any terrain for 10 mil sci-fi. We're going to need to get all of that sorted.
Right. Corvus Terrain, they're your friend. 3D printing, yes. But absolutely, no, that's really interesting, Gerry. And if you've got people coming there, of course, there'll be lots of questions they ask, and such is the nature of things. And as you say, it'll be an awful lot of work. Super, no, but really interesting. So unfortunately, the alarm will go off at about 6:15 tomorrow morning. I'm very much not looking forward to that. So let's if you're happy with that, Gerry, maybe we can just look at the second part of Topic of the Month.
Sure.
Topics of the month. Has it been a disappointing year for Kings of War? So maybe we can sort of lay out the evidence. I think there is a feeling. I mean, we read out some listener questions earlier. It's not necessarily one I share, but I think there is a feeling it has been somewhat of a disappointing year for Kings of War. Now, as Connie said earlier in the questions, and I think this is right, the only new hard plastic kit that's been released was the Basilean cavalry. I think for a poster child army, as Basilian is. Perhaps that was quite an underwhelming release. I can certainly say I was expecting to see probably 2 different units put into hard plastic. But maybe it suffers from the same issue that Trident Realm has, where there's just so many different options in the army, all the sisterhood stuff, etc. And a lot of it went into the vault. We have to say that as well. Perhaps. I mean, I always think with Basilia, they're always in a hiding to nothing Mantic. Maybe that's not the right expression, but they're always up against it because obviously Age of Sigmar has Stormcast Eternals. Well, Palace Ogres, a Stormcast Eternal figure would make a good... And there's loads of Stormcast Eternal models that are no longer allowed in Age of Sigmar. So, they'll make great Palace Ogres and they'll also make great Alohi. Or whatever they're called, Air Lohi, or I never quite understand. So I think it's always... And then, of course, medieval dudes with a spear and a sword, or a spear and a shield. They are very very common, whether it's 3D printing or hard plastics or historicals or whatever. So I think that's a hard army for Mantic to make money on anyway, Gerry, if I'm honest. Which is a shame because it's such an important, lore-wise, it's such an important army. I think it's a tricky one. The thing I would say is we've not seen. So I know we're now into August, we're mid-August, but we don't know what's coming. And we know there's a new army coming in November. We believe it's going to be released in November. And if I'm honest, I suspect in a month's time we'll have a good amount of information on Clash of Kings. I think we'll know 4th edition's coming and it's coming quick. That's my guess. I don't have any insider information. I know people have been frantically playtesting. So, people at the moment look at that and go, oh, that's a really disappointing year. They look over at the Halo stuff and go, well, that's been going gangbusters. Again, I think perception is slightly wrong. I don't think there's been, there hasn't been wall-to-wall Halo releases. And as you said, Gerry, it hasn't interfered with what the plan was for other things. We've also had Champions released this year. So if you look at it now, and you can say, well, Champions isn't really for me, that's for new players. And yeah, that's true. Our local community, to get players in, we play Ambush. I'm very reticent to introduce Champions in that because I think it'll split the community and it'll confuse people. So I kind of keep it at arm's length for now. But if we get to the end of 2025 and we say there's been Champions, there's been 10 factions released for that game, okay, it's not for us, but still it's Kings of War. If we say 4th edition has dropped and a brand new army has dropped, which is all going to be, of course, all new stuff, you can't say that's a disappointing year for Kings of War, right? I mean, that's if 4th edition drops and all that other stuff happens. That can't possibly be a disappointing year. So, yeah, I mean, I fully expect this to happen. What do you think, Gerry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is people like what they play, and therefore if they're playing Kings of War and they're not seeing anything new coming out for it, then they go, well, Mantic have, fluffed that one. Likewise, next year, there's a Kings of War global campaign. And I imagine at that point, a lot of Warpath / Firefight / Dead Zone players will be going, oh, this is a disappointing year for sci-fi because we've got nothing. So people tend to focus on the negative. Don't know what way things are going to pan out for the rest of the year yet. I don't think we're going to see 4th this year. Maybe we will. But whatever way it sort of breaks down, I think Champions, that was their big focus for this year for Kings of War / Panathor. Because the 2-player starter set was released in January for Kings. That was the Abyssal Trident Realm box. So they had that, and then after that, it's all been Champions. And in terms of how do you grow the community for Firefight? Same sort of thing. How do you grow the community for Kings of War? And Champions was one of the ways they looked at that as a lower entry point to get people playing rank and file fantasy. And if 20% of new players who haven't played before go, well, I want to try the bigger version, then that's, a nice subset to have. And if the rest of them just go, no, I just want to keep playing Champions, so be it. So I think it's not just that it's a game. I think it's Mantic having a look at what they can do to make accessibility easier, because Ambush, as Ronnie says, it is just Kings of War. It's Kings of War at a smaller level with a few more restrictions in there. So it's as opaque as regular Kings of War is. In fact, more so, because you're telling people, see the rules in the big book, right? Some of them are changed for this version of it because you're playing it under 1,000 points. So if you're not keen on big battles, list building and that sort of thing, or if you haven't tried it before and you've been put off because of that, then Ambush still isn't the best way to get in, because it's all of the same problems.
I agree with you. I think Champion solves a problem I didn't realise Kings of War had. I mean, as a rank and flank game, I think that's always the problem, is getting in new players, right? Keeping that coming. So I think Champions in that regard is definitely a success. Our local community here, we're further down the pipe. People have already built up 750 points armies. So we've missed it, if that makes sense. I think for new people starting now, I definitely recommend Champions is the good starting point. Gerry, do you get any sense of how successful Champions has been in terms of sales?
I never really see sales and things, so I'm not 100% certain, and most companies won't want to give those up.
Share that information,
yeah. But I know one of our community members, he got into it with a couple of friends, and he has painted, I think, 6 currently of the Champions boxes. That little group absolutely adore it, and they play, I don't know if any of them play Kings of War, but they play Parabellum's game Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings.
Right.
They play that massively, which is a more traditional figure removal, rank and file style game. So they're all more than happy to play big mass battle games, but within that group, they've really taken Kings of War Champions to heart, because they can go whenever they get a game or get a games night together. 6 of them can rock in and they can play through multiple games like a little mini league, rotating players, and have them all played rather than just having one game set up.
Really, really interesting, because Conquest has got First Blood, which is sort of the skirmish tester game. So it's interesting that they've gone Mantic for that. But that's really good. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, so if we move on from talking about Champions then, I mean, I think part of someone mentioned in the comments the PR. Now, I actually don't have a problem with Mantic being quiet about 4th edition, because I just think that the internet is a pretty toxic, restless place at the moment, and I mean, if people are moaning now that Mantic aren't saying enough, or imagine what it would be if Mantic were teasing things at this early ahead of time. It'd be if we think about Command Dice as an example, lots of people were very anti Command Dice. So I don't think Mantic would help things by. I know people are saying they hate the lack of communication, they're getting frustrated. Well, why are you getting frustrated? I mean, it's not 4th edition is not ready yet. They'll tell us when it's ready. Just keep playing version 3.5 or whatever it is we're playing. It's in a really good place. Why are we so desperate to hear news? I mean, it's when it's ready they'll tell us, and we can play it when it's ready. I mean, am I just being simple with this? But I don't really understand why people are getting so antsy about this new edition. Like it's gonna. I mean, we're in a great place. If the game was really, really janky and shooting was massively overpowered and it was broken, I could kind of understand it. But the game is in a fantastic place at the moment. And I'm not really sure why we think that a new edition of Kings of War is going to kind of solve all of our problems. It's, calm down a bit, maybe?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the Command Dice is a great one. They were optional rules, and it said, they're optional rules, you give us feedback, and people absolutely shit the bed over that. And I'm just looking at it going, I think it was at that point I just went, you know what, I can't be bothered with fanatics anymore, and just left that group altogether, because I just wanted to slap so many people, because all I could think in my head was, don't use them then. Just don't use them.
There's a thing. People should just sort of take a breath before rushing to their computer to type stuff, or their phone to type stuff. But I mean, I think there is a little bit of that where I think the Kings of War tournament players are quite insular. They know each other really, really well, and this isn't a criticism of anyone in particular. But I feel like there's a bit of an echo chamber there that and tournament players, they only represent something like 5 to 10% of the player base of any particular game, but they have an undue voice on, because a lot of basement gamers are very introverted and quiet, but that doesn't necessarily mean they don't have opinions. And sometimes I think the loudest people are not necessarily the ones we should give the most credence to, and it's okay, they're the easiest ones to listen to because they'll have an opinion on many things, and then they'll offer you your opinion whether you asked it or not. But if we can somehow get the feedback from the quieter people as well, and the introverts, and perhaps we can do that through things like the app. Perhaps that's useful. I mean, for example, perhaps we could judge, for example, if let's stick with command dice. I know it's a hot topic, but let's just use this as an example. Perhaps there could have been on the list building tool, there could have been, and this is in hindsight, I'm saying this now, there could have been a little tick box, and did you, yes or no, did you use the command dice? And they could do more with that, but we could get data on what percentage of games used them, what percentage of those games were at tournaments, what percentage of games were at home, and just have a bit more, rather than just listening to people's opinion. I mean, people's opinions are important, right? But of course, with all these things, if someone comes to you and says that Glade Stalkers are too good, okay, well, explain to me why. What evidence is there? If you look at online restaurant reviews, right? They could be the best food you've ever had, and you can guarantee a load of people are giving it 1 star with some sort of semi-literate comment about worst food ever. It's like, well, I don't know. Anyway, I think you see where I'm coming from, Gerry. I'm not criticising anyone, but I think it's lovely. Mantic gave this extra thing. I don't think the command dice were really in their final form. If I'm honest, I think they would have, were they to have a second version, I think they would have changed quite drastically. And who knows, maybe they will in 4th edition. But as you said, Gerry, it's kind of like, here's an optional thing. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's also fine. And that's a really nice way to run a game, right? And it's a little bit disappointing how opinionated people were, and that nice little optional thing is probably going to go away now. It's not at Clash of Kings next month, and I think it's a little bit of a shame. I mean, I get the
won't
criticism,
go away from me.
but
I've got the dice out of the book. They'll be using them. Even if things change in the future, I'll be using them.
Hooray! Perfect. Super.
Because nobody can stop me playing however I want to play. And people need to work that out for themselves as well. If you want to play in a certain way, I know there's a lot of people who don't like double ones and don't play with it in their groups. Fair play to them. I love that rule personally, and will always use it. I will say, I mean, as far as if we push 4th edition aside for a moment, because it might come, it might not. It's been slightly, a little disappointing that there hasn't been more hard plastic kits for Kings, but they've been working on Warpath, and so when they were planning this year, they were going, well, we're going to be making 4 plastic armies for Warpath, and then depending on how the Kickstarter goes, that could be more, and the Kickstarter ended up being 8. So their tooling and production has been planned in for those, and they're behind on that insofar as they're only receiving Army 6 this week, and then so Army 7 and Army 8 are still being tooled. That's why we haven't seen Kings of War plastics this year, because they knew that they had this tooling to do, and if they put more Kings of War stuff in there, then Warpath would have been massively pushed, or if there was an issue with Warpath and the Kings of War stuff gets pushed. So they have to plan these things ahead. Now, we do know that the champions from Champions are going to be in Kings of War in the future, whether that comes in by a clash or whether they get added to the army lists on the app or whatever, who knows. So if you look at each of those boxes, so what's that, 8, with the 9th one that hasn't been revealed yet, which is coming. So that's 9 champions. That's nearly every faction. Certainly every faction Mantic makes will be getting a champion for your army. So they all count as Kings of War models. You may not have picked them up yet because they're part of the Champions game, but they'll be added to the army.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Gerry. So people have got the idea that, or the perception, it's Halo that's slowing things down for other game systems. But
yeah, Halo's not hard plastic. Halo's all made in China or Taiwan in a board game factory. So it's the hard plastics for Warpath.
That's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. So, okay, I mean, the what I will say, and I've said it before, that the thing I was disappointed for was the Trident Realm release. For me, as a Trident Realm player, I can tell you I was disappointed with that. I love the army. It just wasn't what I wanted as a player, and it kind of sucks when you think, okay, there's probably 30 armies in Kings of War now. We had our blowout, glow out, whatever you call it, and it was very disappointing. But also, it sold really badly. So the incentive for Mantic to come back at Trident Realm, they'll look at that and go, well, why would we focus on Trident Realm of Nertica, I'm going to call it? Why would we focus on that when it sold terribly? Let's do more Halfling kits. So that's a little bit disappointing. And particularly because I think Trident Realms has the potential to sell really well if you give us what you want, which is placoderms and a few other things. Placoderms, maybe Thrall. But I mean, a lot of the people. Anyway, going in circles. I'm going in circles at this point. But I can say legitimately, dear listener, I'm a positive person. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. But as is Mark Zelinsky. But I know we were both disappointed with the Trident Realms of Nertica release. But anyway, so what are we saying, Gerry? Is 2025 a disappointing clickbait year? You'll never believe number 3 kind of what do we think?
I think overall Kings of War is in a good place, and there's nothing I'm sitting waiting on. I'm not going, I must have a Kings of War release every month. I don't know who out there is, with the exception of placoderms, which we all need. So yeah, I mean, has it been a disappointing year for releases? Yes. Has it been a disappointing year for Kings of War? No.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the Epic Warpath stuff has been delayed, right? So we know they have had issues getting us the plastic crack stuff. But I'm in the same boat, Gerry. It's and we'll see. I mean, who knows? It could be 4th edition drops. We're getting a new army, which will be all new stuff. So let's wait and see, dear listener. We're only halfway through the year. I do think that there is just lots of people are just, particularly on social media, very negative at the moment. So as I said, I won't repeat myself this time, dear listener, but I just feel like people are being negative. And if you think about it, why are you saying you need information on the new release now? It's just we'll get it when it's ready. So everything's going to be okay. And I'm surprised by the number of people, and people I very much respect, saying they think 4th edition will be a disappointment. I mean, maybe they have more information than I do, but people were saying that about the new version of Bolt Action. And I'm not in that community, but I'm just sort of keeping an ear out. But many, many people were complaining bitterly about that even before it was released, but after it was released. And as far as I'm aware, and the few bolt action players I know, basically they just kind of cleaned up some of the janky stuff, and that was the new edition. And to me, as an outsider, that sounds good. That's what I want with a new edition of a game, streamline some things and make it play a bit smoother. That sounds good to me. And Gerry, before I forget, next time you have Warlord in, can you complain bitterly on my behalf that every game of theirs I like, they keep cancelling? Antares, Mythic Americas, Dread, they've just killed that because, and admittedly, I know the reason why they don't sell. I know that, but I'm buying them, so
you should have
it's
asked
frustrating.
me 2 weeks ago because they were over last week with me, filming a load of stuff for Conflict 27.
So close. I've ordered through my through Quest Hub. I've ordered the 2-player starter box for that, and I've gone through my German Grenadiers. I'm halfway through my German Grenadiers that I painted 6-7 years ago, and just trying to make them look a bit more respectable. So that's an exercise I really enjoy doing now, is just going through old models and just tidying them up a bit. It's amazing the improvement you can get very quickly. So I will have a bit, but I must admit, I'm not convinced by everything I've seen on Conflict, but Caleb and I will certainly give it a little go. I'll be the evil Germans and he'll be the Americans. But yes, please stop, because they gave I think Dread didn't sell very well, and they ended up kind of giving the license back, as I understand it, to Rebellion. So that's a shame, and that's a fantastic little game, and full of character. Super. Gerry, I think we've answered that.
Yeah.
I think we've set the world to rights regarding Kings of War 2025.
Well done, us.
Yes. Now, Gerry, before we wrap up the show, Gerry, anything else we haven't touched on?
No, I think we're pretty much covered. Seriously, it's killing me. I can't tell people who the rules writer is for Dreadball All-Stars. Really, really killing me a lot. So much. That was one thing Ronnie did say.
Go for it.
Because he does want to go back to Vanguard. I'm very brief. I meant to say this earlier, and then ran out of my head. So yes, at some point down the line, after Kings of War is sorted, revisiting Vanguard would be on his plans. However, I think you can probably look at what they're going to do with Dreadball All-Stars as a idea of how they're going to go with Vanguard.
Ooh.
No dungers, no nameless people. Everyone's a hero. Everyone's a named person. The whole idea of your Vanguard is that they're like the Dirty Dozen. They're elites. Likewise with Dreadball All-Stars, it's the Harlem Globetrotters.
What you're describing is what I thought Kings of War Champions was going to be, actually. Yes, this is exactly what I thought it would be. Interesting. Yes. Okay, good. Great. Gerry, thank you so much, buddy. And dear listener, thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed listening to the pod, which I very much hope you have, please give us a 5-star review where you are, like and subscribe, and write a little review. That helps with the almighty algorithm and lets more people find the podcast. So that would be great. Gerry, thank you so much for joining me, buddy, as always. Would you like to take us out?
Pleasure, Chris. Well, that's us for another month, folks. Take care, and remember, so much universe, so little time.